Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of What If Naruto Was Insane Like Gaara. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter 9. The Battle Royale. The rest of the week went without incident and the two teams conversed as little as possible until one day Kakashi and Anko called a meeting late one day. The meeting discussed plans for facing Zabuza and his ally. The two Chunin believed that the two would attack the next day as Zabuza would be back to full health then. Then next morning the two teams left with Tazuna, a thick tension and uncomfortable silence accompanying them. You know, if we don't end this little drama the unit will suffer. Kakashi stated ready Ika as they walked. Our unit is fine, they will just slow us down. Sasuke grumbled. Watch your words Uchiha. Shino might just handle your loose lips the same way he did Kiba's. Naruto retorted. Sasuke glared at Shino but made no response. That weirdo got lucky. He wouldn't even touch me in a straight fight. Kiba growled. Shinobi encounters are rarely straight fights, as you put it. Shino replied. So you admit you can't beat me? Kiba said, smirking broadly. Shino ignored the question. The two teams continued to bicker as they made it to the bridge, only find it covered a thick mist. As the group walked onto the bridge they began coming across downed men with Senbon needles on them in various places. There are 4 ninja standing further up the bridge. Hinata reported Byakugan active. Alright, Sakura, Hinata and Shino protect the bridge builder. I'll handle Zabuza. Anko, you battle what I'm assuming are the demon brothers. Sasuke, Kiba, and Naruto fight the fake hunter ninja. Kakashi ordered only for Anko to cut him off. I think it would be best if Hinata and Shino handle the demon brothers while I help you finish Zabuza. Also Naruto could handle the masked kid only, so have Kiba guard Tazuna. Anko insisted. Kakashi was respond but he realized that no amount of arguing would make the new Chunin change her mind. Fine, we will use Anko's suggested pairings. Kakashi said. Everybody hold on. Naruto said before he pulsed a giant wave of chakra, clearing the mist in full. To Kakashi's surprise the boy looked completely fine afterwards. Well, that was interesting. A voice stated, drawing the attention of the group from Naruto. The kid must have chakra in spades to clear all my mist and still be standing. Zabuza said, a grin visible even through the gauze he was wearing over his mouth. You're not going to get away this time. Kakashi growled, ignoring the statement. I don't plan on running. Now enough talking. Let's get down to business. Zabuza replied, create 5 clone of himself only for them to be impaled with Naruto chakra tails. Naruto eyes glowed bright red as he stood in the middle of the group of clones. The clones looked at the boy in shock before turning into water and splashing to the ground. It seems he might be as fast as you, Haku. Zabuza said, looking at the masked ninja. Haku simple nodded. I doubt it. Naruto whispered, standing behind the two of them. I'm faster. Before Haku could turn around, Naruto vanished and a foot drilled into Haku's stomach, launching him away from Zabuza and the demon brothers. Kid was never one to mince words. Anko stated offhandedly before she charged at Zabuza, only to be intercepted by Mizu and Guzu. Just as the two closed in on her, Shino appeared between the two and slammed his staff on Mizu's head. Guzu then turned to Shino and was about to slash at him with his clawed gauntlet, only for an arrow to hit the metal appendage and knock him away from Shino. Anko turned her attention back to Zabuza and smirked. It seems my team has got the message. She charged at Zabuza again and smirked when she felt Kakashi right behind her. You speed is impressive, you are faster than me. Haku said, blocking one of Naruto's trench knives with a kunai. Haku then jumped while throwing the Senbon in his other hand at then blonde. Before they could reach Naruto he was gone. Haku then turned around and threw the kunai behind him, making Naruto jump over the weapon. Haku then jumped into the air over a kick from Sasuke and backhanded the boy in the face. You also wish to fight me? Haku stated as Sasuke recovered from the hit and jumped back. Before Haku could land, a foot connected with the top of his head and sent him slamming on the bridge. Haku rolled to the side, barely avoiding the wind blade that sliced through the concrete surface where he once was. Interesting technique. You can channel wind affinity chakra into your trench knives and then they will form blades of wind. Haku stated aloud. Naruto didn't respond and disappeared. Haku got up and raised a forearm to block Sasuke's punch. You're too slow. Haku droned, not even paying attention to the Uchiha. Sasuke growled before grabbing Haku's forearm. Sasuke then pulled the boy in and kneed him in the stomach, launching Haku backwards. Naruto then appeared above Haku and drilled his foot into Haku's stomach. The impact Haku made with the bridge was so strong that it cracked the concrete. Haku got up slowly, but Naruto gave him no time to recover and he was on the boy, immediately unleashing a barrage of punches strengthened by his trench knives, kicks, and knees. Naruto finally finished with a haymaker to Haku's face that sent the boy skidding across the bridge. Haku got up again and his mask fell to the ground shattered. Haku coughed up some blood before charging the boys. Within a few meters Haku stopped and went through a chain of hand signs. When he finished, water rose from the river ocean below them and surrounded Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto's chakra tails burst from behind him in preparation. The water quickly formed into multiple mirrors and Haku stepped into one. Instantly Haku became visible in all the mirrors. "I'm sorry, but you will die here," Haku stated. "Mizu, these greenhorns think they stand a chance against us," Guzu said as he and Mizu stood across from Hinata and Shino. Hinata had an arrow nocked waiting for one of them to move while Shino was holding his bow in both hands defensively. "You're right, brother. Let's show them how wrong they truly are," Mizu stated, and he and Guzu charged at Hinata and Shino, their chain between them. Hinata jumped back and released her arrow. The arrow struck the chain, breaking it instantly. The demon's brothers growled but continued their charge. Shino spun his bow and right as they were within striking range he swung it up, hitting Mizu in the knee. Shino then jabbed Guzu in the chest with the other end. Before either could respond, 2 arrows pierced them right between the eyes. "That was peculiar. I expected 2 Chunin level ninja to be more challenging of adversary," Shino stated, but then he glanced at the bodies and saw them turn them into water. Shino spun around and saw the brothers charging at Hinata, their chain set on dicing her to pieces. Shino channeled chakra into his bow and a sharp point made from earth formed. Shino then launched his, now a spear, weapon at the chain. Hinata turned and saw the spear connect with the chain only inches away from her. The spear slammed into the ground and pierced through concrete almost a foot deep. Hinata then looked to the demon brothers and delivered a kick to Guzu's chin. She ducked under Mizu's swipe at her and added chakra to her bow, and the limbs of her bow, up to the handle, formed blades of water. Hinata swung one end at Mizu's knee and the bow sliced completely through. Mizu cried out in pain as he fell to the ground. The moment he hit the ground, Hinata used the other bladed limb to decapitate Mizu. "Mizu, I'll kill you, bitch," Guzu growled and charged at Hinata only to freeze with a gasp. Guzu looked down and saw the point of Shino's spear protruding from his chest. "Like I said, I expected Chunin level shinobi to be more challenging adversary," Shino stated as he pulled his spear out of Guzu's chest. As Guzu fell to the ground, Shino withdrew his chakra and the spear tip fell to the ground, crumbling to dust. Shino walked over to Hinata and the two went to guard the bridge builder. "You're not going to live this time, Zabuza, we will kill you," Kakashi said, raising his headband over eye, revealing his Sharingan. "I doubt it," Zabuza replied, going through hand signs. The moment he finished, the 3 Junin were engulfed in a thicker mist than before. "Same trick, Zabuza," Kakashi taunted. "If it works, why stop?" Zabuza replied, standing between Kakashi and Anko. The missing ninja swung his blade at Kakashi and Anko with stunning speed. Kakashi was a hair too slow and the blade cut lightly into his chest. Anko having more time to react than Kakashi dodged the attack completely, but before she could attack, Zabuza disappeared into the mist. "You know I don't think you take me seriously," Anko stated calmly. "You might regret that." "Oh really?" Zabuza stated, standing right behind her. Anko smirked. Ready for Zabuza's attack, she turned around and whipped out a kunai at the same time. Anko then stabbed Zabuza in throat but growled when he dissolved into water. "Your cheap tricks are starting to aggravate me," Anko snarled. "Relax, Anko. Getting angry will only make you slopping," Kakashi stated. "He's right," Zabuza agreed, swing his blade down on Kakashi. Kakashi pulled out a kunai to block, but Zabuza's sword still managed to pierce Kakashi's shoulder. Kakashi bit back a yell and kicked Zabuza away. "You're slipping, Kakashi. Without that eye of yours you're not much of a shinobi," Zabuza's voice called out through the mist. "I am more than enough to handle you, Zabuza," Kakashi growled. "Those wounds on you beg to differ," Zabuza replied right behind Kakashi. Zabuza swung his enormous blade at Kakashi even faster than before. The blade cut through Kakashi like butter only for him to turn into water and splash to the ground. Just as the man was about to move, a voice called out. Hidden shadow snakes. Anko yelled, her arms pointed at Zabuza. Multiple snakes shot from the sleeves of her trench coat and ensnared Zabuza. Kakashi now. Anko yelled. Zabuza froze when he heard the faint chirping of multiple birds and saw a faint blue glow in the distance. Before he had time to react, Kakashi was in front him, his right arm engulfed in blue lightning. Reikiri. Kakashi shouted before jabbing his arm into Zabuza's chest. Kakashi's arms pierced through Zabuza like a sword. Zabuza coughed out blood looking down at Kakashi's arm still in his chest. I didn't think it would end like this. Zabuza stated as blood dribbled out of the corners of his lips. Kakashi nodded and he removed his arm from Zabuza's chest. Anko's snakes released Zabuza and the man's lifeless body fell to the ground with a thud. I'm sorry, but you will die here. Haku said from inside his mirrors. Sasuke smirked and started a set of hand signs. When he finished, the boy shouted. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. Sasuke inhaled and then spewed out a giant fireball at the mirror Haku entered. A cloud of smoke covered the area, blocking everything from view. When the smoke cleared, Sasuke's grin faded. The mirror didn't even have a single scorch mark on it. These mirrors can't be burned or broken by simple jutsu. Like I said, you will die here. Haku stated. Suddenly Haku vanished and Senbon needle started flew from multiple directions. Naruto's chakra tail started shooting around wildly, blocking the needle's aim at him. Sasuke on the other hand was helpless as he was pelted by multiple needles, but he did managing to block or dodge a few. It seems your tails are fast enough to block my attacks. Why do you not protect or help your comrade though? Haku asks. I'm not his babysitter, but I have had enough of you. Naruto growled. Naruto's chakra arms slowly formed until they were the size of sledgehammers. When arms stopped growing, they rapidly split into multiple arms and shot at all the mirrors. The crimson appendages struck the mirror and shattered them all. Haku was forcefully ejected from one of the mirrors and skidded across the mirrors. The chakra arms merged back into two arms and one of them shot at Haku and grabbed him. The arm pulled him back to Naruto and the blonde noticed that Haku's eyes looked dead. Kill me. Haku asks. My pleasure. Naruto replied, smirking sadistically. Naruto formed his free chakra arm into a blade, then sliced Haku in half from the top of his head down. Naruto's smirk grew as he was drenched in the blood and organs of Haku. It's been too long since I killed somebody that doesn't poof away before the good part. Sasuke watched the scene stunned. He hadn't expected Naruto to actually kill Haku, and then the look on his face during and after the kill frightened the lone Uchiha. Then Sasuke looked at the blood pooled around Naruto and had flashbacks of the night his family was murdered. Why did you kill him? Sasuke asked, getting up and pulling the multiple needles out of his body. He asked me to, and he was our enemy. Naruto replied. But he was defenseless. Sasuke replied. Are you dense? He has a Keke Genkai that allows him to form and control ice, and were right above an enormous body of water, he would never be defenseless. Naruto retorted. Why does it bother you I killed him? HN, was all Sasuke responded with before he walked back to the others. Naruto withdrew Kyuubi's chakra before following suit. Well, the enemy has all been eliminated. Kakashi stated. What about Gato? Tazuna asks. He'll just send stronger men next time. Leave that to us. Where does Gato stay? Anko asks. He stays at a mansion on the other side of the island. Tazuna responded. Team 8, let's go. Anko ordered. Wait, we're going with you. Kakashi stated. No, your mission is to guard the bridge builder, besides we can't leave survivors. Is your team prepared to kill? Anko asks. Kakashi sighed and shook his head. What are you talking about, sensei? We're just as ready as their team. Kiba argued. There is a huge difference between talking and doing, in Izuka. Naruto retorted. Kiba growled. Enough. Team 8, we have a mission. Now let's go. Anko shouted. Team 7 nodded and the 4 jumped off. Traveling through the trees, they made it to the mansion at nightfall. The team, while staying hidden in the trees, looked and saw 2 guards standing on either side of the front doors. Hinata. Anko whispered. The Hyuga heiress nodded before taking out her bow, then Hinata knocked 2 arrows. Hinata waited for a moment and then let the arrows fly. The arrows flew like bullets and hit both guards right in the foreheads. The bodies fell to the ground dead instantly. Let's move. Anko ordered and the group moved to the foot of the door. Naruto, help us in. Naruto nodded and went through a chain of hand signs. When the blonde stopped, he thrust his hands forward and said, "Wind style." Great breakthrough. A powerful gust of wind shot from Naruto's hands and blasted the doors open. The group ran in and looked around to see a vast number of men holding various weapons surrounding them. Before anybody moved, clapping sounded from the top of the staircase. "Well, I must say not many people would risk coming to my home like you. I'm impressed. You all got guts, and seeing as you're still alive, Zabuza and his men are dead." Gato stated. Nobody made a sound. "Well, I'm glad the man asked for too much money. I was going to kill him anyway. I apologize, I'm rambling back to business. Men, whoever can kill them will awarded nicely." The men grinned viciously at the group, but before anybody could move, Shino started his own hand signs. "Earth style. Rising stone spears." Shino called before slamming his palms on the ground. Instantly multiple spikes of stone shot from the ground, impaling people. While the group was stunned, Hinata began a set of hand signs as well. When she finished, Anko, Naruto and Shino jumped into the air. "Water style. Exploding water shock wave." Hinata shouted before she spewed out a massive amount of water. Hinata spun while she released the water, sweeping multiple people up. The men began to chuckle as they got up. "So you got us wet. What was that supposed to do?" one of them men asked. Hinata looked down at the water that was at her waist. She glanced at the door and noticed that it was elevated by a few stairs. "I needed it." Hinata jumped up and started skating on the water, to the surprise of everybody, even her team. Pulling out her bow, Hinata began shooting the men, unable to avoid fast enough with the water so deep. Getting the message, the Naruto pulled out his trench knives and began running on the water, killing the restricted goons. Shino pulled out his bow and added chakra to it. The weapon grew sharpened tips on both ends, then Shino followed suit with Naruto. Anko simply stood on the water and watched her team handle the enemy. Just as she was about to join, she saw Gato trying to sneak out the door. "Where do you think you're going?" Anko asked as she appeared in front of the man. "Please don't kill me. I'll give you anything, money, power, lovers. You name it, I'll get it." Gato begged. "You know I was going to have fun with you, but I hate beggars." Anko replied before pulling out a kunai. Giving Gato no chance to beg, Anko shoved the blade into Gato's head to the handle. Anko pulled out the kunai, then turned her attention back to the skirmish between her and her team. She smirked when she saw all three of her students standing there on top of the, now pink, pond Hinata had created. "Well, brats, the mission was a success, let's head home." Chapter 10. The Key to Destruction. Was the mission a success? Sarutobi replied when he saw Teams 7 and 8 enter his office. Yes, the mission was a success. Enemy ninja were eliminated, then Anko and her team went on to take out Gato and all his goons at his mansion. Kakashi answered. "Alright, well, I'll be expecting mission reports from you and Anko later." Dismissed. Sarutobi stated. "Well, while everybody is here, I would like to bring a certain event that happened on the mission." Kakashi said as everybody was turning to leave. The two teams stopped and looked back to the Hokage. The aged shinobi nodded to Kakashi and waved the two teams back in. "Go ahead, Kakashi." Sarutobi responded. During our mission, when Anko and I returned to the home of Tazuna, we were met with the sight of Kiba Inuzuka in a sling. When I asked Kiba what had happened, the only answer I got was Naruto. So when Team 8 returned, I asked Naruto why he injured Kiba after he ignored me once. He finally said he did because he felt like it. Kakashi explained. That is a serious claim. Injuring a comrade can result in not only failure but possible deaths due to being undermanned, especially when it is confirmed you will be facing enemy shinobi. Do you deny these claims, Naruto? Sarutobi asks. Naruto shook his head. Sarutobi sighed. This time I won't suspend you, but next time I will not be so lenient. Well, now that that's over, Kakashi said as he pulled out his little orange book. You don't seem too frustrated to find out I'm not being punished. Naruto replied. Why would I? The Hokage was willing to let it slide, so I am too. Kakashi answered before pausing. Oh, I see, you're surprised that I didn't get mad that the Hokage didn't punish the demon boy, as some would put it. Naruto, I don't see you for what you contain. I see you for what you are. A fine young shinobi who might just be somebody great eventually. Kakashi added with an eye smile. The silver-haired Chunin then walked out while reading his Ika Ika. Team 8 report to Training Ground 44 tomorrow at 5 in the morning. Anko stated before leaving the room with a shunshin. Her team soon followed suit. Team 7 looked at the spots Team 8 had once been for a moment before they walked out the door. 3 days later, Team 8 report for another mission and no D rank crap Hokage-sama. Anko stated as she and her team entered the mission room. Anko, I know you are training them seriously, but I suggest you send them on at least 10 D ranks before they perform another C rank mission. Sarutobi replied. They haven't been on 1 D rank mission yet. Iruka acts as he turned to the Hokage. But this group has been out the academy for at almost 3 months. The Chunin exams are in 2 months from now and I was expecting Anko to be doing everything to get them ready for that. I am Iruka and having my genin waste their time doing simple paid chores is not going to do that. Anko retorted. Fine Anko, if you are so set on keeping from doing D rank missions, I have one for you. Sarutobi started only to be cut off by a distressed Iruka. But Hokage-sama, how can you let them just bypass the basic of standards of shinobi training? D rank missions help allow teams to work on their teamwork in safe environments. Iruka argued. That's the thing. I trained them in teamwork and it was in the forest of death with hundreds of my snake summons all over the place. Giving them a D rank now would truly be an insult to their hard work. Anko explained. Sarutobi sighed and looked between both shinobi. If Anko truly believes that her team is ready, I will respect that. Sarutobi finally said. Iruka looked ready to have a heart attack while Anko couldn't keep the grin off her face. Team 8, who had been quiet the entire argument, nodded in appreciation. Now I have a mission that you may find up to your team standards. My Anbu have found out that 10 leaders of gang families are meeting in 3 weeks in a city on the southern border. Normally this would be none of our business, but these groups know of the shinobi arts and send their people out as ninja mercenary. I need you to infiltrate the meeting and assassinate each leader. Make sure there is no way this can be traced to Konaha. Hand me your hitai atesh. Sarutobi said, reaching his hand out across his desk. Team 8 quickly hand the aged Hokage their hitai atesh and he then pulled out a manila folder from under a stack of papers. This contains mission details. Memorize it completely then burn it. Dismissed. Team 8 nodded and walked out the door. As the team exited the room, Anko stopped them at the door. This is the real deal. Unlike the last mission, I will leave assassinating the targets to you. I will only provide backup and it will be limited. Anko stated as she read through content in the manila folder. As she finished, she handed to Shino, who also began to read it. The genin passed the folder to Hinata, who in turn passed it to Naruto once she finished. Once the blonde finished, he burned the folder with a basic fire jutsu. Now let's go, we need to be in Jin by yesterday. Anko ordered, jumping off. Looking around, Team 8 realized that they were right by the main gates. With a nod to each other, the Team 8 followed behind Anko. The entire trip took half the day. While moving, Anko discussed tactics and methods to kill the leaders. They paid close attention when Anko explained that they would need to be subtle because the room would be filled with ninja. About a half a mile away, Anko stopped them and led the group from the trees to a dirt path. She handed Hinata a small box before addressing her team. Hinata, inside that are multiple pairs of contacts lens. They will hide you Byakugan eyes. Naruto, there is also some special makeup that will cover your whiskers. Hinata nodded before opening the box and carefully putting on a pair. Naruto just glared as the Chunin put the makeup on him. Now from here on in, you three will be on your own. I will be hidden in the shadows watching, but besides that I will not be able to do much more. Now remember, if things get hairy, retreat. I will handle things from there, understood? Anko said, eyeing every member of her team. Each gave a curt nod and after a moment Anko smirked. Make me proud, brats. Anko said before jumping back into the trees. Team 8 looked at each other before walking the rest of the way to Jin. It's huge, Naruto stated as the three enter the city. Buildings reached to the sky and the street was filled with a sea of people. The city is quite impressive. Shino replied in agreement. Hinata nodded her head. So let's go find some clothing shops. Entering Yoshin's mansion like this would seem suspicious. Hinata said as she looked at the multiple buildings. Naruto and Shino nodded as they followed the young heiress to a clothing shop. Find basic clothing but something that can possibly conceal weapons. I'll do the rest, Hinata stated as she walked to the women's section. Shino and Naruto glanced at each other before splitting off to look for clothing. After around a half hour of clothing shopping, the three genin walked out of the store. Naruto now sported a black leather jacket with blue jean pants. Shino was wearing a gray zip-up turtleneck with black jeans. Hinata chose to wear a lavender blouse with khaki pants. We should head to our new employer, it's getting rather late in the day. Shino said as he looked up to the sky. Naruto and Hinata nodded in agreement before the three began to search for the mansion in the gigantic city. Hello, welcome to the Vong Manor. Can I help you three? A doorman in an all-black suit asks. I and my friends just came to this town and we were told you were seeking employees. Hinata replied. The doorman nodded before gesturing through the door. The trio walked in and had to repress the urge to gasp. The room they entered was extravagant. A giant glass chandelier hung from the ceiling. Stained glass windows, with beautiful images of two armor-clad fighters, allowed light to dance into the room. An entirely glass staircase was situated across the main door. As light bounced off the glass staircase, shimmers of light flickered around the room. Two glass statues of the warriors stood on either side of the staircase. The warriors also decorated the wall in various paintings and tapestries. Yoshin-sama has a deep interest for the battle of Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. Artwork of the two is everywhere in the home. Now come, I will take you to Yoshin-sama, he should be available. The doorman stated as he led the three through the mansion. True to the doorman's word, every hallway was filled with multiple depictions of the first Hokage of Konaha and the most notorious Uchiha in all history. From paintings to statues, art tapestries and even carvings were located all through the halls. The doorman finally stopped in front of a large door with a carving of Madara and Hashirama locked in combat. Around the two, the Kyuubi's tails were carved, thrashing with the demon itself looming over Madara, growling, while glaring at Hashirama. The bastard will suffer for making me his puppet. Kyuubi growled in Naruto's head. What do you mean? Naruto asked, confused at Kyuubi's sudden proclamation. None of your business, boy. This matter is between me and that accursed man. Kyuubi spat. Naruto, deciding not to press the matter with the demon fox, returned his attention to the doorman who was holding the door open for the three. Naruto was the first to enter, followed closely by Hinata and Shino. Well, I presume you three looking for employment. A small stubby man with a goatee and a balding head stated. Just a quick glance at the man informed you of how wealthy he had, designer labels on all his clothes. Yes sir, I and my two friends used to work for Gato-sama, but after his death we have been jobless and wandering ever since. In a trading post just east of this city we were informed that you were seeking workers. We would like to know if there is any truth to that. Hinata explained. Yoshin looked at three for a long time, contemplating what they had just said. Yes, there are positions available and I will hire you. Gato was a dear friend of mine and I can't allow three of his employees to go workless. Lusai show them to the living quarters. Yoshin stated as waved them off. Wait, what are your names? I am Hikari Shibo. This is Kanashi Tasuki. Hinata stated, gesturing to Shino. This is Bengi Yachi. She then gestured to Naruto. Do your friends talk? Yoshin asked with a raised eyebrow. Actually sir, for the most part they don't. Hinata replied. I have known them for years and I doubt they have spoken more than 10 words together. Yoshin nodded warily before gesturing for them to leave. Lusai led the three upstairs into a long wing of the mansion. You two will sleep together in this room. Lusai stated to Shino and Naruto, opening up a door on the left side of the hall. As Naruto and Shino entered the room, Lusai looked to Hinata. You, ma'am, shall be sharing a room with another female. I believe she is in there now. You three just missed dinner. Lusai then proceeded to open up a door right across the hall from Naruto and Shino. As they entered, they were greeted with the sight of a teenage girl, maybe 6 years older than Hinata, with curly red hair, sitting on her bed in pajamas reading a book. Oh hi Lusai-kun, who is she? The girl asked, smiling brightly to the two. Torin-san, this is your new roommate Hikari-san. I assume you can help Hikari-san get acquainted with her new room. Lusai stated. Torin nodded and Lusai exited the room. Well, as you already know, I'm Torin Buki. I'm Yoshin-sama's housekeeper. If you not informed, I'm the head maid. Torin stated, her voice brimming with pride. Wow, housekeeper, how did you accomplish that so young? Hinata asks. Well, Yoshin-sama noticed my hard work and promoted me when his last housekeeper died of old age. Torin explained. Hinata nodded lightly before glancing at the window. It's late outside, we should be getting to bed, Hinata stated. Torin followed Hinata's gaze and nodded. The bathroom's inside in that door, Torin said, pointing to a door by opposite the two beds. Well, it appears our target is marginally suspicious of us, Shino said as the Naruto laid on their beds. I suppose, but it seems he is more curious to why you and I don't talk, Naruto reasoned. Shino nodded and silence filled the rooms. Why do I have sense something terrible will happen prior to our return to Konaha? Shino said after a small gust of wind blew into the room. For a moment Naruto didn't say anything, but when the Aburame turned to look at him he saw the blonde staring right back. I feel it too, Naruto responded. Just be on guard. Over the course of their stay the Naruto and Shino remained isolated from any employees. After a while rumors began to spread about the two. One stated that the two boys witnessed the destruction of their entire village and the incident had traumatized the two into silence. Some rumors said that the two were former mimes, but when they left the occupation their vows of silence didn't end. Another wilder stated that they were trained assassins out to kill each other and wouldn't speak until they were just about to end the other. Most rumors were dismissed by Hinata, who simply explained they didn't talk because they never had anything to say. Hinata herself had become quite popular among the workers. Many like her for her kind demeanor, but they also respected her hard work. She and Torin had grown close over the short time together. Torin had taken Hinata under her wing and the two couldn't be spotted apart. Some even said the two were like sister. Torin had even spent time with Naruto and Shino when Hinata went to go relax with the boys. Excuse me everybody, I have a large amount of important guests coming over tonight and I want this place prepared, Yoshin stated to all his servants who he had gathered in the main entrance hall. During which if anybody acts out of place during the dinner your job is forfeit. Right on schedule, Hinata murmured to Naruto and Shino. What was that? Torin asks. I said why the rushed schedule? Hinata answered without even the slightest hesitation. I know, but Yoshin-sama is always throwing things at us short notice, so you get used to it, Torin explained. Hinata nodded silently before she and Torin left to make sure every room was clean for possible guests to stay the night. Naruto and Shino went into the ballroom to help set up. It took the majority of the day to finish setting up. Once finished, Hinata, without Torin for once, entered the boys' room to see Shino and Naruto only dressed in boxers while Naruto was writing multiple seals on Shino. Hinata blushed deeply before turning to face the door. Naruto-kun, what are you and Shino-kun doing? Hinata asked, stutter returning. Damn it, Naruto growled. Hinata turned around to see Naruto pulling out a stack of ryo from his nearby pants and handing them to Shino. Hinata then realized what she had done and glared at her two teammates. You two made a bet about me stuttering, she stated, irritation laced in her voice. Well, Naruto and I were discussing concealing our weapons, but it is immensely difficult to conceal a weapon such as my bow. Naruto then suggested he write a storage seal on me so I just summon it when needed. I then realized we could do that with all our weapons and proposed this theory to him. Naruto agreed but told me it would be necessary to write where they wouldn't be seen. As Naruto began writing the seals, I stated if you walked in on us while he was writing out the seals you would stutter. Naruto disagreed, so we made a wager and as we all can perceive I won, Shino explained. Done. Kunai are on your right forearm, shuriken left. Kunai with exploding tags on them are on your right thigh while soldier pills are in the front of your left thigh. Blood pills are on the back of your left thigh. Your bow is sealed on your right shoulder blade since you're right-handed, Naruto explained as he began writing seals on himself. Hinata stared at the two for a moment before looking to Naruto. Could you place seals on me as well? She asked, her voice soft and almost inaudible. Sure, but you realized not only will you need to remove your clothes, but because of that dress you're wearing I will need to place the seals in more compromising locations, Naruto explained. Hinata looked down at her dress and realized what he meant. She was wearing a dark purple backless sheath dress that went down to her mid-calf and had thin straps to keep it up. The front of the dress dipped low enough just to show the smallest amount of cleavage, while a slit on the left side of her dress went all the way up to her mid-thigh. She also wore matching 1-inch heels. Hinata blushed at the realization of what Naruto would have to do but took a deep breath and nodded. If I can trust you and Shino-kun with my life, I can trust you too with the last of my modesty, she replied, even though a bright neon red blush highlighted face. With that said, Hinata removed her dress, showing she was only wearing lace purple panties. Naruto finished the seals on himself before writing seals on her, glancing at the dress to make sure that they would be covered by the dress. Alright, I'm finished. Kunai are located just above your left hip, shuriken just above your right. Your bow is located right below your left breast, with arrows located below your right in sets of 20 arrows in each down to your navel. There are 10 seals, with highest one holding your quiver as well. There is a seal with soldier pills on the front of your right thigh, while kunai with exploding tags on the back your right thigh. Now I need both of you to add some chakra to all your seals. It will be your base and will be how much chakra is going to be needed to get one weapon, so make sure it's a little as you can use without having to focus on it for more than a split second. Naruto explained to them as he started doing as he had said. Once completely finished, the three got dressed, Shino and Naruto both in basic tuxedos, before heading down to the ballroom. Upon entering, they noticed not only were there already a few workers in the room, but a few guests had shown up as well. The trio split off and began working while keeping a close eye on the guests. Within an hour, every chair was filled and Yoshin walked into the ballroom. Welcome, my friends. This night has the making of being a monumental event, but before we go do that, we eat. He shouted and received a loud applause. Yoshin took a seat at the largest table with what Naruto, Shino, and Hinata recognized as the various crime bosses expected to show. The trio along with other workers began bringing out food and setting them at the tables. The room was filled with conversation as people ate. Soon after they finished, people began to ask for the sake, but before the workers could go get them some, Yoshin stood and waved them off. Now, my friends, I have an offer for you that will benefit us all. The missing ninja Orochimaru has requested the service of a large number of my ninja for his upcoming plot to destroy Konaha. I agreed, but I soon realized my force were nowhere near enough to meet his request. That is why I brought you all together. I propose we join together into one crime family and rule together as equals. Yoshin said. Many people in the room looked to the man with raised eyebrows. Hinata, Naruto, and Shino almost gaped at the information. You suggest we rule together as equal? How would we do that? A portly man asked from seat. Figo-san, we will have council that will have the family's head member as a member on it. We will meet weekly to discuss matters of importance and vote on how best to solve them. Yoshin explained. Figo nodded. What of Orochimaru's plot? When is it? A tall-skinned man with a mustache asked. Orochimaru plans to attack his old village during the final portion of the upcoming Chunin exams. Yoshin said. Naruto glanced at Hinata and Shino before nodding. With a quick hand sign, the room was littered with Naruto's shadow clones that wasted no time in killing as many of the stunned people as possible. Hinata and Shino added chakra to their seals, drawing their bow and staff respectively before they joined the clones. Before the crime lord realized what happened, the room was littered with the dead bodies of their henchmen. Naruto, Shino, and Hinata landed in front of them, weapons drawn and at the ready. We can't allow you to aid the traitor in the attack of our village. Your lives are now forfeit. Shino said. Hinata raised her bow and fired an arrow right at Yoshin. Just as it was about to impact his skull, the man caught it and snapped the arrow in half. Foolish children, while I admit you are strong to take all our men and not even appear fatigued, we are all at least Chunin level. I'm sorry to inform you, but this room will be your final resting act. Yoshin started only to stop as he looked down. The man then saw the end of a red blade penetrating his chest. The man looked around to Naruto holding a trench knife into his back. Then to Naruto's surprise, the man smirked. Before Naruto could move, the gang leader turned into vines and wrapped around Naruto. As the blonde struggled, Yoshin appeared out, now holding a kunai to his throat, only for it to be blocked by a tail of chakra. So you're the demon child of Konaha. It will be a pleasure killing you, demon. Yoshin replied with a smirk on his face, but before he could respond, a tail of chakra shot through his head from behind. Naruto smirked as he watched the body fall to the ground. Like you could. Naruto snorted with a flex. The vines snapped off Naruto like tissue paper, revealing to everybody the blonde was only acting trapped. Now, as my teammate said, your lives are now forfeit. Naruto said with a smirk as his eyes blazing red. Naruto charged the men as they began to draw out various weapons. Hinata and Shino charged the men from the other side and the group split half. 5 of them took on Naruto while the other 4 went after Hinata and Shino. Almost instantly Naruto realized that unlike Yoshin, these men weren't going to die easily. Whenever Naruto was about to kill one of them, another two would attack him while the other one would aid the member Naruto had almost killed. After a while Naruto began to grow bored of their game and shot his chakra tails at the 5 gang leaders. The men dodged to the side, but Naruto smirked and spikes of red chakra shot out the tails and pierced the men. Just as Naruto withdrew his tails, a lone man pulled out a handful of senbon and launched them at Naruto. The blonde tilted his head but gasped in realization when the man smirked as he fell to the ground. Naruto turned around to Hinata using her bow to block a katana just as the senbon pierced her throat. Before she could touch the ground, Naruto was there and caught her. Naruto-kun, there is something I have to tell you. Hinata whispered. No, shush, conserve your energy, we'll get you out of here. Naruto replied as his chakra tails blocked various attacks people sent at the duo while they were distracted. Hinata shook her head. I have to tell you. She whispered, her voice grew softer with each word. Naruto-kun, I love you. What? Naruto asked as Hinata took her final breath. Hinata's eyes closed and an ominous feeling filled the air. On instinct everybody, including Shino, backed away from the silent blonde. Then suddenly his tails began to thrash around wildly, destroying anything they touched. Shino, realizing that he may be in danger, used a shunshin to get to a safe location. The gang leaders though jumped back in surprise and watched as the tails began to darken, losing their transparent red color and turning a deep blood red with black areas. Once all the tails had changed color, Naruto's body was engulfed, forming a tight skin-like shell over him. Naruto stood and turned to face the men with Hinata still in his arms. His eyes simply white circles while his face was black like he was wearing a mask. This is your fault. I'll kill you. I'll kill you all and raze this city to the ground. Naruto growled, his voice now deeper and more demonic. The men back away from the enraged boy in fear, but Naruto let loose a vicious roar at the men that not only blasted them away but the entire side of the building his attack was aiming. As Naruto slowly walked toward the rumble the men were in, the tails began to grow in size until they were the size of large trees. As the tails continued to swing wildly, their large increase in size caused them to start destroying the mansion. Naruto then placed Hinata on his back and one of the tails instantly shrunk back to normal size before wrapping gently around Hinata and Naruto to make sure the girl stay on his back. Naruto looked forward to see some movement in the rumble his attack had created. The boy glared before raising his arm and a gigantic chakra arm formed. The arm itself was twice the size of the mansion they had stayed in and destroyed what remained of the building. With a growl, Naruto slammed the chakra appendage down on the area he had seen movement and smirked when he moved the hand to see a large pool of blood seep from under the rumble. Workers too, Naruto guessed with a shrug before he swung his arm, destroying the nearest building. Screams of panic filled the air only to be silenced as Naruto's other hand enlarged and destroyed pounded the building to dust. Naruto growled and his tails shot forward, extending in size, and began knocking buildings over. Naruto then proceeded to crush the buildings with his arms. Just as the boy was about to move, a rock hit him in the head. Naruto turned to see a large mob of men standing with various weapons. Naruto smirked at the group before a small black ball began to form in front of his mouth. Once the ball stopped growing, to the surprise of the mob, the blonde swallowed it. Suddenly Naruto's arms shrank to normal size and dug into the ground. Naruto's body started to enlarge and until he looked ready to burst. With a muffled growl, Naruto opened his mouth and an enormous beam of energy shot toward the mob, completely annihilating them and everything in that direction farther than the eye could see. Naruto roared into the sky, shooting a wave of energy into nothingness. Looking back to the ground, the boy continued to destroy the once beautiful city until nothing more than rumble and blood stains filled the area. Seeing nothing more to destroy, Naruto drew back in the chakra and held Hinata in his arms once more. Naruto looked at her face and a lone tear fell from his eyes. With sigh, the blonde pulled out the senbon in her neck and sank to his knees. Footsteps alerted Naruto and his tails shot out from his lower back, their usual transparent red color. Naruto turned to see Anko with Shino walking up to him. Wow brat, your temper tantrums are no joke. Anko stated, looking at the remains of the city. She's dead, Naruto said, looking back at Hinata. It's in the job description. She knew that there was the chance of dying the moment she began shinobi training. Anko replied. I know, but she told me she loved me. Naruto replied. Shino and Anko just looked at the blonde. Nobody except my Yamato has ever said that. How could she love me? I'm a monster. I destroyed this city. How? Why would she love me? You let Kyuubi get control. Anko started but Naruto cut her off. No. I did this. This was all me. I knew exactly what I was doing and you something. It felt amazing. Their screams satisfied me. Their looks of pain, anguish, helplessness, and fear brought me joy. I was ecstatic whenever I saw their blood and ashes. Naruto said, cutting her off. Anko just looked away. The area was filled with awkward silence. I recommend we return to the village. Shino said, breaking the silence. You're right, let's go. Naruto, carry Hinata. Anko ordered and the three took off toward Konaha. Chapter 11. Chunin exams. How much further are we? Naruto asks. The village should come into view in a few hours. Anko replied. Naruto, I want you to take Hinata's body to the Hyuga house, then meet us at the Hokage Tower. Naruto growled but nodded. Shino, you haven't talked since we left, what's the matter? Anko replied. This is my fault. Shino answered. The team stopped and Anko and Naruto turned to face him surprised. I saw the Senbon coming but I was in the locked with one of the men. If I had been stronger I could have stopped this. Shino, I was the one who dodged the Senbon instead of blocking them with my chakra tails. If anybody is to blame, it's me. Naruto said, his voice getting quieter as he spoke. You're both acting like babies. Shit happens on missions. Hinata is dead and going over the what ifs isn't changing anything. Anko reprimanded. Now stop acting like babies and let's get back home. The rest of the trip was finished in solemn silence. Anko gestured to Naruto and the blonde took off toward the Hyuga compound. The blonde landed in front of the door only to be cut off by one of the guards. What is your business here? The guard asked, glancing at Hinata's body. She died on our mission and my sensei told me to bring the body back to you. Naruto replied. The guard suddenly activated his Byakugan. Naruto jumped back into a defensive position while still holding Hinata. The guard rolled his eyes. I don't wish to fight you and I suggest you get her to the hospital quickly. She's alive but barely. The guard said. Naruto froze and the guard glared. Go now. Naruto nodded and was gone in a burst of flames. He was gone in a burst of flames. Brat, what took you so long? Anko asked, glaring in the direction of the Hyuga manor. I was at the hospital. When I got to the Hyuga compound a guard told me that Hinata was still alive, so I rushed there. They said she in an induced death-like state due to the Senbon needles being removed incorrectly, but with they would be able to revive the end of the night. Naruto explained. Shino, did you examine Hinata's body? Anko asks. No, Naruto went into his enraged state before I could, but I doubt I would have been able to find that. My diagnostic skills are lacking. I haven't had anything to practice on for that. Shino replied. Well, it doesn't matter as long as our teammate is alright. Anko explained. With that said, the team entered the Hokage Tower and made their way to Sarutobi's office. Anko, how was the mission? The aged Hokage asked before taking a long drag from his pipe. Where is Miss Hyuga? Hinata is in the hospital. The mission to assassinate the gang leaders was a success, but there was a complication. Anko said. Sarutobi gestured for her to continue. Well, Jin has been reduced to rubble. Sarutobi froze and his pipe fell from his mouth, landing on his desk. How? Sarutobi managed in his stupor. During my team's final battle with the gang leaders, Hinata Hyuga was hit with what appeared to be a fatal blow. Naruto went into a rage and not only killed the rest of the gang members but destroyed the entire city as well. Anko explained. Jin is the largest city in the Land of Fire and one of the largest cities in the elemental nations. Do you know what could come from this events? The daimyo could very well ask for Naruto's head. Sarutobi said, panic slipping into his voice. Naruto didn't respond. Don't you care for your life, Naruto? Sarutobi asked. Naruto looked into the eyes of the Hokage and the aged man almost shuddered. If they come for me, I will kill them. Naruto stated in a bored tone, but to everybody else it seemed more like a promise. Sarutobi, rubbing his temples, chose to ignore the statement and looked to Anko. There was a Chunin meeting yesterday. The Chunin exams are coming up and I need to know if your team will be participating in it. Sarutobi informed the Chunin, changing the topic. Anko looked to her team. When Shino nodded, she directed her attention to Naruto. As killing allowed in the exams? The blonde axe. Anko nodded. Then yes. I doubt Hinata will disagree, so my team is in. Anko said. Sarutobi nodded before reach into a drawer and pulling out 3 pamphlets. He then tossed one to each genin and handed Anko one for Hinata before he said. Fill them out, then turn them to class 310 in the academy on the day of the exam. You all are dismissed. 2 weeks later. Well, brats, the Chunin exams are tomorrow and I expect you all to impress me. Anko said, looking at her team. They nodded and Anko grabbed them all in a hug before she pretended to break down into tears. Good luck, mommy. Anko will always be proud. She said between her fake sobs. Letting them go, Anko smirked and left in a shunshin. The Hinata and Shino looked to Naruto, who simply walking off. The two decided to follow the blonde, seeing as they had nothing else to do. The trio wandered around the village until they saw a little boy running from Sakura. Team 8 watched as the boy turned the corner only to run into a large teenage boy with face paint on and a bodysuit and a hood with cat ears on the top. The team grabbed the little boy and that was when team intervened. I suggest you put him down before I kill you. Naruto whispered, now standing behind the teen with a trench knife to his neck, lacing his words with killing intent. To Naruto's surprise, the boy visibly paled and slowly released the little boy, who ran to a kneeling Hinata. You're just like Gaara, aren't you? The teen said. Naruto shook his head. No, Naruto whispered, causing the teen to shudder. I'm definitely worse. Konkuro. A voice called out. Naruto glanced behind him to see a teenage girl with blonde hair put up in 4 pigtails and a giant battle fan on her back. Temari, don't ease. Konkuro started but was cut off as when Temari pulled off the fan and swung it at Naruto. The blonde boy smirked when a gust of wind shot toward him. Naruto gathered Kyuubi's chakra in his mouth and just before the wind made contact with him, the Naruto released it in a vicious roar. The roar negated Temari's attack and continued on to her, slamming her into a nearby building. So this is the best Suna has to offer, pathetic. Naruto said, lifting up Konkuro and throwing him into the wall Temari was stuck in. 2 grunts of pain caused Naruto to smirk before he sighed. I know you're there. Come down or I'll make you. Naruto growled. A sand shunshin appeared in front of Naruto and in its place a red-headed boy with a large gourd on his back looked right at Naruto. Who are you? The boy asks. If you're not careful I will be your executioner. Naruto growled, blasting the boy with killer intent. To his surprise the boy on slightly raised an eyebrow. No, I don't think you will. The boy replied before blasting Naruto with just as much killer intent. Naruto smirked. Cute, you can unleash a little bit of killer intent. Naruto said before doubling his killer intent. The red hair, to his surprise, increased his killer intent farther than Naruto. Not one to be outdone, increased his killer intent too. Soon this little game became too much for some nearby bystanders and people began fall to their knees. After a while Team 8 and Team 7, who had just shown up, fell to the ground from the increased killer intent. Moment later Junin and Anbu began to surround the 2 boys. Right as one was about to make a move, the cork on Gaara's gourd popped up and sand began whipping around him while Naruto's chakra tails shot out and began thrashing around him wildly. As the killer intent increased even more, the Junin and Anbu backed away from the 2 murderous boys. Then like a silent message was sent, the boys disappeared, one in a fire shunshin, the other in a sand shunshin. The killer intent faded and the upper ranked ninja gaped at where the 2 were just at once were. Captain, what are they? And Anbu asked the captain, who was outfitted in an all-white suit. I don't know, but those 2 alone together might spell disaster. Find them and separate them immediately. The captain ordered. How do we find them? The Anbu replied. Before the captain could respond, 2 waves of killer intent, even stronger than before, washed over the village. The captain looked to the origin of the killer intent and saw something that almost paralyzed him in fear. On the Hokage mountain the 2 boys stood, arms crossed, with sand and chakra tails ramming into each other as they thrashed around their respective user. Above the boys it appeared as the form of the Kyuubi and what seemed like the mix of a raccoon and dog snarling at each other. Stop them now! The Anbu captain shouted, voice filled with panic. But before anybody moved, 2 figures appeared by the boys and shouted. Naruto, stop this immediately! Sarutobi shouted to the blonde. Gaara, enough! The figure dressed in the attire of a Suna Junin yelled. Then, just like that, the 2 boys' killer intent receded and Gaara's sand retreated into his gourd while Naruto's tail seeped back into his lower body. The boys turned to their respective leaders and glared. If you stop me again, I'll kill you. They both said coolly before they left in two Shunshin jutsus. The next day Naruto, Hinata, Shino entered the academy and made their way upstairs to room 310. Upon entering the second floor they saw a group of people standing in front of two teens who were blocking the entrance to a room that had 310 on it. Realizing these kids had been fooled by the genjutsu, Hinata gestured to the stairs further down the hall and Team 8 quietly snuck by everybody as not to draw attention. Walking up the stairs they were met with the vision of multiple Chunin standing in the hall. They looked around and saw Anko standing with the Chunin instructors of the rookie squads. Seeing her team, Anko walked over to them. Well, your test is in there, good luck and watch each other's back. Anko stated before shoving her team through the door. As the team recovered they noticed everybody was looking at them. Naruto growled and flooded the room with killer intent. I suggest you all stop staring or this exam will be the last one you ever take. The blonde growled. Almost instantly everybody turned to look in other directions. Naruto scoffed. Pathetic. He mumbled under his breath. Naruto walked over to the nearest wall and sat down leaning his back on the wall. Hinata took a seat in front of the blonde and Shino simply stood leaning on the wall. The team relaxed in silence for less than 10 minutes when the door slammed open to reveal Sasuke with Kiba and Sakura standing to his sides. Naruto attempted to ignore them but Sakura shrieked his name and the blonde could no longer fake slumber. Naruto opened one eye to see Sasuke and Sakura standing right in front of him. What? Naruto acts in no mood to deal with the other team. Watch your back because I'm coming for you. Sasuke said only to turn around and be engulfed in a hug by Ino. The platinum blonde whispered something in the lone Uchiha's causing him to blush profusely but nod his head. Sakura glared and proceeded to try and yank Ino off Sasuke much to the displeasure of Ino and if you looked closely Sasuke. Naruto rolled his eyes at the spectacle but this caused him to catch Kiba flirting with Hinata. As the Inuzuka began to draw closer Hinata slowly shifted backwards but this resulted in her pressing into Naruto's chest. When Hinata realized she was now positioned in Naruto's lap she blushed but made no indication of moving. Naruto glanced at Hinata to see she was moving her hand toward her hip ready to draw a weapon but Naruto gently grabbed her wrist and stopped her. The blonde looked over her shoulder and glared at Kiba. The Inuzuka growled at Naruto but continued talk to Hinata drawing closer with each sentence. Soon he was only a few inches away from Hinata and getting closer. Right as he was about make contact a chakra tail wrapped around Kiba's neck and forced him away. I will you tell you one time. Stay away from her. Naruto growled as Hinata glanced over her shoulder to look at Naruto. Thank you, she whispered to him. Naruto glanced down at her but said nothing. He then released his hold on the Inuzuka and letting the chakra recede back into his body. You guys should quiet down, you're drawing a lot of attention. A tall teenager with silver tied into a ponytail and glasses stated as he walked up to the group. Obviously they didn't take my promise seriously. No matter, that just leaves more people for me to kill. Naruto growled. Wow, cool it. Now is not the time to take out your competition. The silver-haired boy said. Naruto killer intent spiked causing everybody in the room to tense but the blonde immediately dropped and looked at the newcomer. And who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do? Naruto asked coolly. Kabuto Yakushi. The silver-head boy said. Well, you must be here for a reason, so what do you want? Shikamaru asked looking at Kabuto warily. I'm just here to help you rookies out. Kabuto said. This exam's no joke, trust me I know. How many times have you taken the exam? Sasuke asks. I have taken the exam 7 times. So this is my 4th year. Kabuto replied sheepishly. Wow, a veteran, you must be an expert on these exams. Sakura stated. Naruto, Shino, Kiba, and Shikamaru rolled their eyes. Some expert, he's never passed. Shikamaru retorted. So the rumors on this exam being really tough are true, troublesome. Hey, don't get bent out of shape, I just might be able to help you guys out. Kabuto replied, pulling out a fairly large stack of cards from his pocket. You'll help us out by playing cards with us? Kiba asked confused. No, these are ninja info cards. I got information on just about everything in these exams. Kabuto pride sprinkled in his voice. Do you have people? Sasuke asks. Sure. Who do you want to know about? Kabuto asked with a slight grin. Rock Lee of Konaha, Gaara of Suna, and Naruto Uzumaki of Konaha, Sasuke listed. Naruto glared at the Uchiha. You even have their name. That's no fun. Kabuto mock pouted while pulling 4 cards from the stack. Let's see. Gaara is of a team consisting of his 2 siblings Temari and Konkuro, led by Junin Baki. I don't have much on his skills since he's from another village, but it does say he'd been on 8C rank missions and 1B rank, and get this, he's never been scratched. Kabuto said, causing most of the rookies to gasp in shock. Now the Rock Lee is on a team consisting of Neji Hyuga, last year's #1 rookie, and Tenten, led by Junin Maeda Guy. As for skills, it says his taijutsu has spiked in the last year, but his ninjutsu and genjutsu are still horrible. He has been on 20D ranks and 11C ranks. Kabuto said while Sasuke nodded. Last, Naruto Uzumaki. His teammates are Hinata Hyuga and Shino Aburame, led by Junin Anko Midarashi. He excels at ninjutsu and taijutsu while his genjutsu is average. He has been on WoW. Naruto and his team have been on only 1B rank mission and 2A rank assassination missions, and Naruto's never been scratched on a mission either. Kabuto replied, staring amazed at the blonde. The other rookies look at Naruto with shock. I think you know more than you should too. Those missions were off the records. Naruto said, his eyes turning deep red and his pupils becoming slits. Kabuto took a step back and brought up his arms in defense. Hey, just relax. No need to do anything irrational. Kabuto tried to convince Naruto. Naruto glared and extended his arm, grabbing Kabuto in a chakra arm. No, I think you need to die. Naruto said as he began to crush Kabuto in his grip. Hey, release him now, or you and your team will be eliminated from the exams. A tall man with a bandana-styled Hittite and a trench coat yelled from the front of the room. Naruto glared at Kabuto and released him. Watch your back, your days on this earth are limited. Naruto growled. Kabuto nodded and adjusted his glasses. Now, first rule: if you are caught fighting anytime outside the permission of your protector, you will be eliminated. The man said, his voice booming in the room despite his calm demeanor. Now everybody come to front and receive a number from this table, then take a seat at the corresponding chair. The man said, pointing to the table in the front of the classroom. After a moment, all the participants were seated somewhere. Now, my name is Ibiki Morino and I will be your first proctor. The man said once he had regained everybody's attention. Now the first portion of the exam is a test that is being administered to as I speak. Now there are 10 questions and the first 9 are on your sheets. The 10th question will be given to you all after 2 hours. Why do we have to wait for final question? Kiba acts in his seat toward the back. I will say this one time because I forgot to mention it: if you interrupt me while I speak, you and your team will be eliminated. Ibiki said, ignoring Kiba's question. Now, unlike the other test, you will start with a score of 10 out of 10, 100%, and for question you get wrong, your score will be lowered accordingly. One last thing: cheating will not be tolerated. If you are caught cheating, you will lose 2 points. If you get caught 5 times, you and your team will fail the exam. If you get caught cheating, you don't even deserve to be Chunin. Begin. Ibiki stated. These questions are impossible, Naruto thought as he went over the questions. Stupid human, you're an insult. Look around. Kyuubi growled in Naruto's mind. Naruto held in any comments and glanced around the room only to smirk. Multiple other genin were cheating, some better than others, as a protector had just called out a number resulting in 3 kids exiting the room. So the point is to cheat, but how to do that? My skills don't really suit information gathering. Naruto thought as he mentally went over his jutsu arsenal, trying to find one that could help him cheat. Fuck, now is not the time to realize I'm seriously lacking in this. Naruto continued to berate himself for his lack in skills when it came to information gather until saw multiple insects crawling up his desk and on his paper. Naruto glanced forward to where Shino was sitting and noticed a line of insects crawling under the desk from Shino to him. With a smirk, Naruto used his left arm to block his paper from the view of the ever-watchful proctor in his row. Once he did that, the bugs began to align themselves into the answers and Naruto copied the answers the insects form. When Naruto finished, he watched as the insects stealthily returned to Shino. Naruto then looked at the clock and saw that the final question wouldn't be administered for another hour, so the blonde drifted off to sleep. When the time limit ended, Ibiki coughed to draw the attention of the class. Though his cough was soft, in the dead silence of the room it sounded more like a bang. Glancing around, Ibiki noticed that Naruto was sleeping still while even Shikamaru was waking up slowly. Heavy sleeper. Ibiki thought before taking out a kunai and launching at Naruto's forehead, the handle forward instead of the point. Just as the tool was about to make contact, a tail of chakra shot from behind Naruto and deflected weapon. Naruto growled as he got up and glared daggers at the proctor. Ibiki rolled his eyes before turning to the rest of the class. Now I will give you the final question, but there are two options. You can leave now. You and your team will be eliminated, but you can take the exams another time. Ibiki stated before he was cut off. Why would anybody choose that? A leaf shinobi axe. You and your team are eliminated. I said if I'm interrupted again you will be failed. Ibiki growled. The ninja began to protest but forcibly removed by one of the Chunin proctors, his team following behind solemnly. Now then, if you choose to take the final question and you get it wrong, not only will you and your team fail, but you and your team will never be allowed to take the Chunin exams again. Ibiki said calmly, only for the room to exploded in shouts of objections. That's bull. I know for a fact that there are people here who have taken this exam before. Kiba shouted over the crowd, earning yells in agreement. That's too bad. I'm the protector here and what I say goes, but if you don't like the risk, leave. Ibiki said, and slowly but surely multiple teams began to quit. The original amount of genin teams had started off at around 200. After the 2-hour test taking session, that number had dropped to around 150. 10 minutes after Ibiki had given the kids the option of leaving, that number had shrunk to 54 teams. Ibiki looked around and saw there were around a dozen people shifting nervously, appearing to be ready to drop out. Just give us the damn question already. Naruto growled from his spot. To Ibiki's surprise, the genin who had been ready to quit began to show anger and determination in their eyes. The proctor inwardly chuckled when he realized that they didn't want to be shown up by the rookie. Seeing as holding out longer wouldn't change anything, Ibiki nodded to the rest of the proctors. Congratulations, you all pass, Ibiki said as he looked back to the genin. For a moment the group some stood with shock while others smiled, a select few even had faces of indifference. Right as Ibiki was about to say something, a swirl of rose pellets materialized next to next. When they faded, in their place stood Kurenai, arms crossed and glancing around the crowd critically. You left 54 teams, Kurenai said as she glanced to the taller proctor. What are you getting soft? Perhaps this year's bunch are stronger than usually, Ibiki stated, glancing back at Kurenai. The red-eyed Junin shrugged. Doesn't matter, my portion will definitely cut the number down by at least half, Kurenai said, just loud enough for everybody to hear her. Many of genin paled at the comment, but Kurenai left no time for explanation. Be at training ground 44 in 10 minutes. If you're not there when time expires, then you and your team will be automatically eliminated from the exams, Kurenai said before she left the room in a rose shunshin. Chapter 12. Chunin Exams Part 2. The Forest. Naruto, Hinata, and Shino stood silently as the other genin looked cautiously at the forest of death. Kurenai sat on a tree branch hanging over the fence surrounding the forest. The red-eyed Junin glanced at a stopwatch before jumping down in front of the genin. Welcome to Training Ground 44, also known the Forest of Death. This is where the second portion of your exam will take place, Kurenai said as she gestured the caged forest area. Home sweet home, Naruto murmured sarcastically, earning chuckles from those close enough to hear him. Kurenai glared and launched a kunai at the blonde with blinding speed. Naruto smirked, then using almost impossible reflexes the blonde caught the knife between two fingers. Before Naruto had time to react, a tree sprung from the ground and its branches wrapped around Naruto, pinning him to the tree. Kurenai came out of the tree and took the kunai in Naruto's fingers before placing it on his neck. Nice trick, but you got that from our sensei, Naruto stated. Kurenai glared at the blonde but gasped when she felt cold metal press against her throat. So we know how it works, a voice came from behind. Kurenai glanced behind her to see another Naruto sitting on a branch of the tree she formed, holding the blade of one of his trench knives to her throat. I like the personal touch with genjutsu at the end though. Shadow clone, Kurenai axe. Naruto smirked but shook his head. I'm not, but he is, Naruto said. Then the blonde bound to the tree dispersed in a cloud of smoke. Kurenai sighed before releasing the genjutsu and returning to the front of group, her pride having taken a major blow. Kurenai turned to the genin and began to explain the exam. Now for the second portion of the exams you will either be given this heaven scroll. Kurenai said lifting up a white scroll, or this earth scroll. Kurenai lifted up a black scroll with her other hand. The point of the exams is to retrieve the scroll you don't have, then make it to the tower in the center of the forest with both before the end of your time limit, which is 5 days. The genin immediately understood why Kurenai had said the numbers would definitely be cut in half. Now fill out these waivers. Kurenai said, pointing to a large stack of them next to her that had seemingly came from nowhere. Once your team has done that, go get a scroll from the booth over there. Kurenai stated, pointing to a booth 2 Chunin finished putting up. Why do we need waivers? Asuna Shinobi asks. There will definitely be deaths in this section of the exams. The waivers are so I can't be held responsible for them. Kurenai said. Many genin paled, but eventually they all went and filed the waivers out and received their scroll. As Naruto and his team walk over to the stand, Naruto caught the gaze of Gaara. Two stopped and glared each other, causing the temperature of the immediate area to drop. Many of the Chunin hopefuls moved away from the area, and even Naruto and Gaara's teammates took a step away from their malicious leaders. I will find you in that forest. Gaara said, his voice dripping with killer intent. Good, it's so much easier when the prey comes to the predator. Naruto growled. The two continued their stare down until Hinata finally pulled Naruto away from Gaara and to their specific gate. What is the plan? Hinata asks as her team waited at their gate. Well, we have environmental advantage since we train here frequently. Shino said. I suggest that I use local insects while Hinata uses her Byakugan to find targets, then ambush them. It will be quiet and efficient. Agreed, Naruto said while Hinata nodded. Just then Kurenai's voice came out over the intercom. The second portion of the Chunin exams begins now. Kurenai's voice stated. The gates to the forest opened and immediately Team 8 jumped into the forest to begin. Naruto-kun, I can see one group, AIM Ninja, heading straight for the snake pit right now. They're the closest to R and appear to be setting up a trap. The blonde nodded before putting on his hood. I'll take them. You two split up and find groups you feel you can eliminate. Meet at the snake pit by nightfall. Naruto said. His two teammates nodded and went off in separate directions to look for teams to take out. Upon reaching the snake pit, Naruto stopped and stood on a branch looking at the AIM Ninja who were still setting up their trap. Naruto smirked and with a burst of speed was behind one of the ninja. Naruto covered the ninja's mouth before he slit the unprepared victim throat. Before the AIM Ninja's two teammates could realize what happened, Naruto replaced the AIM Ninja with a Hang Shadow clone. Naruto disappeared into the trees with the body just before the two ninja turned around at the spiked chakra from using the jutsu. The clone looked around as if to act suspicious of the incident as well. What was that? One of the ninja asks. The shadow clone shrugged before pulling out a kunai. The two other ninja nodded at the clone and pulled out kunai as well. The three jumped into the middle of the clearing and stood in a tight circle covering each other's back. Then in an instant Naruto was in the middle of the circle holding his trench knives to the two real AIM ninjas' throats. The ninjas dropped their kunai and one of them pulled out an earth scroll. Take it and leave us. The ninja said, dropping the scroll by Naruto's feet. I will take it, Naruto said before he slit the throats of the two defenseless ninja. As their bodies fell to the floor, Naruto smirked and picked up the scroll. Not what I needed, but it was something to do, Naruto said as he jumped out of the clearing to go search for more victims. Hinata smiled softly as she looked at the three unsuspecting Suna ninja standing in the clearing. The three were standing in a circle and going over a plan to get a scroll, completely unaware of her presence in the trees. Hinata tapped the seal on her body that contained her bow and the weapon popped into the air silently. The pale-eyed ninja did the same with her quiver and arrows and strapped the quiver to her back. Hinata slowly took out 3 arrows and strung them all at once. I've never tried 3 at the same time. I wonder if I can get it. The Hyuga thought as she took aim. With a sigh, Hinata shot the arrows only to frown slightly. 2 of the arrows had hit directly between the foreheads of the ninja like she wanted, but the last one had missed the back of the last one's head and hit him in the arm. Fuck. Suna ninja screamed as he pulled out the arrow. Hinata dropped from the tree and began channeling chakra into her bow. The Suna ninja tilted his head in intrigue when he saw the limbs of the bow become encased in blades of water. I never seen somebody do that with a bow, the Suna ninja stated. Then with his good arm the ninja reached behind his back. This allowed Hinata to take notice to dual swords strapped to his back. The ninja pulled one of the swords out of its scabbard and settled into a defensive stance. I'm sorry, Hinata said as she settled in a unique stance that allowed her to utilize her transformed weapon. The Suna ninja scoffed before he charged. He led with a downward slash that Hinata blocked before she brought the other end of her double blade at his chest. The Suna ninja shifted his body and the water blade missed by less than an inch. The ninja then spun in the opposite direction and aimed a strike at Hinata's waist. Hinata jumped back and tossed her bow in the air. The Hyuga heiress then went through set of hand signs. Water style. Water trumpet. Hinata then brought her hand to mouth and blew out a jet of water that slammed the Suna ninja into a tree. Hinata then caught her bow and strung an arrow. Before the ninja could recover, Hinata let her arrow fly, hitting the ninja right between the forehead. Using her Byakugan, she located the heaven scroll and sighed. Hinata looked at the sky and saw it was getting late. With a smirk she headed for the snake pit only to find a growling Naruto and stoic Shino waiting for her. What's the matter, Naruto-kun? Hinata asks as she landed in the clearing. Naruto is frustrated because while he totaled more kills than some of them had already lost their scrolls. This ended up causing Naruto to obtain fewer scrolls than myself. Shino explained and Naruto growled again. How many scrolls did you two get? Hinata asks. I collected 8 while Naruto only managed 6 scrolls but he killed 13 teams. How many scrolls did you obtain, Hinata? Shino asks. Hinata smiled before pulling out 12 scrolls. Wow, impressive, Naruto said as he counted Hinata's scrolls. Hinata, how did you manage so many? Shino asks. Some teams had more than 1 scroll. Hinata replied, causing Naruto to growl. Well, it doesn't matter, let's head to the tower. Naruto said as Hinata put the scrolls back in her pouch and headed for the tower. Only a few minutes into their travels, Hinata stopped. Naruto and Shino, sensing their teammate was no longer with them, the two backtracked to her. What is it, Hinata? Naruto asks. I see Team 7 and they're under attack. Hinata said. Not our problem. Naruto retorted. I agree, our relations with Team 7 are less than atrocious. Shino added. But they're Konaha shinobi and we need to help them. The ninja they're facing is beyond the level any genin should be. Hinata pleaded. Naruto rolled his eyes and Shino crossed his arms in a gesture of annoyance. You're too nice, Hinata. Naruto said. Fine, we aid Team 7 but if it gets out of hand we pull out. Hinata nodded and took off in a different direction, Shino and Naruto on her heels albeit reluctantly. Kukuku, little Sasuke-kun, you disappoint me. Here you are acting the part of a paralyzed mouse in front of the big bad snake. I thought the sole survivor of Uchiha clan would be more. A tall female Kusa said as she jumped onto the branch where Sasuke and Sakura stood paralyzed in fear. Fang over fang. Kiba's voice shouted just as 2 spinning drills rammed into the Kusa ninja and slammed her into a tree. The 2 drills stopped on a nearby tree and Kiba and a clone of himself stood with elongated claws and canines. Overall they looked wild and more feral in appearance. I'm not done yet. Kiba growled. The clone snarled in agreement. You have become a pest and I'll exterminate you now. The Kusa ninja said as she pulled herself out of the tree. Then in an instant the ninja was in front of Kiba with a kunai poised to decapitate him. Kiba gasped in surprise but couldn't move fast enough to block the strike. To his surprise the blow never came though. Instead Naruto stood holding his trench knives and using one to block the kunai. I suggest you leave while I feel merciful. Naruto stated coolly. Well, the demon container has made an appearance. The Kusa ninja said in an amused tone. It seems that the ninja was cut off when Naruto drilled his knee into her solar plexus, launching her away. Just as the foreign ninja got up, Naruto was behind her going through hand signs. Wind style. Drilling air bullet. Naruto said before taking a deep breath. The hooded ninja then released his breath in the form of a sphere of air that hit the Kusa ninja and launched her into another tree. Hinata and Shino then appeared next to Naruto and jumped over to Team 7. Come on, she's still alive, I'll come with you while Naruto and Shino keep her distracted. Hinata said as she jumped off with Sakura and Sasuke right behind her. I'm staying, I can't just leave you two to face her by yourself. Kiba said as the clone nodded. Cute, but I'm not interested in you three. Now to my real prize. The Kusa then seeped into a tree, leaving the 3 ninja confused. Prize. Kiba pondered aloud. For a moment the other paused until it came to them. The others, the stated in unison before taking off in the direction Sasuke, Sakura, and Hinata went. Now running isn't very becoming of three shinobi. The Kusa ninja emerged from a branch trees in front where the three heading. Sakura and Sasuke froze up at the sight of the ninja, but Hinata glared. Just as she was about to respond, her glare became a smile. "You're one to talk," Naruto said as he stood on the same branch as the Kusa ninja. "Kukuku touche," the Kusa ninja said while turning to face Naruto. The blonde stood to her side with his arms crossed. The only things visible under his hood were two blazing red eyes with slits for pupils, quite intimidating Naruto-kun. Naruto didn't respond, instead he disappeared in burst of speed. The Kusa ninja smirked and ducked, dodging being decapitated by Naruto's trench knife. The blonde followed up by throwing a knee at the Kusa ninja, who dodged that as well. "You really are impressive. I felt the force of those strikes even though they didn't touch me," the Kusa ninja stated as she turned to face Naruto. The blonde growled and launched a barrage of strikes at the Kusa ninja, only for her to dodge every last one of them. Kiba and Shino landed next to Hinata, Sakura, and Sasuke moments into the clearly one-sided fight. The five of stood stunned as they watched Naruto and the Kusa ninja become blurs. Yet even then they could tell that Naruto couldn't land a hit on her. This became more obvious as Naruto's chakra tails shot out of his lower back and began aiding him in attacking the ninja. Suddenly Naruto jumped back and the Kusa ninja growled, holding her arm. Blood was seeping out of her hands and then she began to laugh. "Kuku, I'm impressed you pushed me to using my full abilities and still managed a hit. You're clearly above Genin level. You're Junin or maybe Anbu level, though it won't be enough," the Kusa said as multiple clones of her formed. 3 clones charged to take on Naruto while the rest separated and took on Sakura, Kiba, and Shino, leaving the original to Sasuke. "Now Sasuke, let's play," the ninja said as she charged Sasuke. The Uchiha attempted to block, but in his state of fear the Kusa ninja soon began to rain strike after strike on Sasuke. The Kusa glared, then hit Sasuke with a straight kick, sending him tearing through a branch before hitting a tree trunk. "You disappoint me, Sasuke. You're nothing compared to Itachi, but he was a prodigy after all," the Kusa ninja said with a frown. Sasuke stood up with his face looking down. When Sasuke looked up, he was glaring intensely at the Kusa ninja, Sharingan blazing, one tomo in each eye. "You're dead," Sasuke growled as he charged the Kusa ninja. This time the odds were in his favor. Sasuke could predict the ninja's moves, blocking attacks and striking in the gaps in his defense. Sasuke jumped up and kicked off the ninja's chest, launching himself backwards. Sasuke then pulled out multiple shuriken and threw them at the Kusa ninja. "You missed," the Kusa ninja said as she watched the shuriken flew by her. Only as she noticed a glint trail after them did she realize her mistake. Attached to each shuriken was a line of ninja wire and, with a flick of his wrist, Sasuke made the shuriken wrap around the ninja. When the shuriken buried themselves in the Kusa ninja, she grunted in pain while Sasuke brought the wires to his lips. "Fire style. Dragon fire." Sasuke blew fire on the wire that enlarged and sped up as they traveled along wires. When the fire reached the Kusa ninja, screams of pain emitted from her. The remaining clones dissolved into mud and fell to the ground. The group of genin gathered around Sasuke, who was smirking at Naruto. "I guess I'm stronger than Junin level. I barely broke a sweat. With these eyes I will be able to beat him," Sasuke said. Naruto wasn't paying attention. Instead the blonde's red eyes were focused on the fire that was slowly going out. "He's not dead," Naruto growled. "Kukuku perceptive as well, you definitely would make a first-rate ninja," a different voice said from the smoke left from the fire. When it cleared, the Kusa ninja's skin was heavily burned everywhere. The most surprising thing though was that his face was peeling off, revealing a grown man with pale white skin, purple eyeliner, and yellow eyes with snake-like slits for pupils. The man with a twisted grin pulled off the skin, forcing many of the young genin to hold back their last meals. "What are you?" Kiba shouted at the man. "I am Orochimaru, but I have to leave now, but let me leave you a gift, Sasuke." With that said, the man froze the group with killer intent. Naruto growled but was suddenly attacked by a clone. With the blonde out of the way, Orochimaru extended his neck to impossible lengths. Then, before anybody could realize what he was going to do, Orochimaru bit Sasuke's neck. The Uchiha cried out in pain and fell to his knees while holding the area Orochimaru bit. As Orochimaru left, the killing intent faded, the group began to move. Sakura immediately went to Sasuke's aid. Naruto then returned covered in mud. Dude, what? Kiba started only to be cut off by a death glare from Naruto. If you finish that question, many terrible things will happen to you. Naruto growled. Enough. We need to find shelter. Our team is fine, but one of your members is hurt and I need a stable location to inspect him. Shino said. The group nodded while Kiba and Sakura picked up Sasuke. With that, they made their way down to the forest floor. With Naruto in the lead, the group located a nearby hollowed-out tree. Sakura and Kiba set Sasuke down and Shino quickly performed a few hand signs before placing his hand on the mark that had appeared on Sasuke's neck. Shino removed his hand before looking to the remaining members of Team 7. From what I could tell, that mark is a seal and it's slowly releasing foreign chakra into Sasuke's chakra system. Shino said. Can't you remove the seal? Sakura asked as she sat beside Sasuke's prone form. I'm studying the medical arts, not fuinjutsu. Shino replied. So what you're saying is you're no help to him, right? Sakura retorted. Shino glared, but due to his shades and mask it could only felt through the subtle killing intent in the air. My team didn't have help you three in the first place. I would be grateful we did that. Shino. Hinata, let's go. Naruto ordered and his team left, ignoring the apologies and pleas to come back from Team 7. The team followed Naruto toward the tower at the center of the forest when Hinata sighed. We should go back and help them, she said, causing Naruto and Shino to turn to her in shock. No. We attempted to assistance them and they pay us back with ingratitude. Shino responded. But they could be attacked and with one member down they will be easy targets. Hinata replied. Then hope they give up their scroll to avoid confrontation. Now let's go, the tower is less than 5 minutes away. Naruto said as he and Shino headed off toward the tower. Hinata glanced back in the direction of Team 7 before following her teammates to the tower. Upon landing next to the tower, they were surprised to see Gaara and his two siblings landing by the tower as well. The two teams tensed as Gaara and Naruto began leaking killer intent. It appears fate is not on your side, Gaara said as he stepped in front of his teammates. I disagree, Naruto replied as he mimicked Gaara's movement. Gaara didn't respond, but the cork of his gourd popped out and shot at Naruto's face. The blonde didn't even flinch when a tail of chakra shot out and blocked the cork. Nice trick. How often does it work? Naruto asked, never breaking eye contact. Gaara grunted as sand began to leak from his gourd. Naruto crossed his arms and 8 more chakra tails shot out of his lower back. Die, they both said in unison. Naruto raised his arm and a chakra arm shot forward. Gaara followed suit and an arm of sand shot forward, intercepting the chakra arm. The limbs locked together and began pushing in a battle of strength, only for it to be ended when they both crushed each other. Sand flew everywhere while the red chakra just faded from existence. Naruto then sent 3 of his tails at Gaara only for them to be blocked by a wall of sand. Gaara went through a few hand signs then extended them forward. Soon a shuriken, multiple shuriken then shot out of the sand wall toward Naruto. Unconcerned, Naruto casually pulled multiple shuriken out his weapons pouch and began channeling wind chakra into them. Naruto watched as all the Suna shuriken were deflected by his chakra tails. Then Naruto added Kyuubi's chakra to the shuriken and the wind blades became visible and tinged with red. My turn, Naruto said as he threw all the shuriken except one at Gaara. The wind-enhanced shuriken tore through Gaara's sand shield like paper before striking Gaara. Luckily for him, none of the shuriken hit fatal areas, but deep cuts decorated his body and blood began dripping from them. Kankuro and Temari gasped as they saw the blood come from the wound. He hit Gaara. Nobody has ever been able to touch Gaara, Temari said as she looked at Naruto with fear. The blonde ignored the comment and began adding his wind chakra and Kyuubi's chakra to the last shuriken. As the blade grew, Naruto didn't stop adding chakra until they made the shuriken the size of a Fuma shuriken. Naruto then stopped adding chakra to it and launched the deadly weapon at Gaara. The shuriken sliced right through Gaara's shield and split the red head in half at the waist. The 2 halves of his body fell to the floor before turning into sand and blowing away. A sand shunshin appeared in front of Temari and Kankuro, but instead of the sand fading when Gaara appeared, it began to spin around him wildly. You are good, Uzumaki, but I'm afraid you die here, Gaara said as he sent multiple tendrils of sand at Naruto. You aren't much of a shinobi once you get past the sand. Naruto said, now standing right next to Gaara. Your taijutsu is horrible. Naruto the elbowed Gaara in the neck. Gaara's sand attempted to protect him, but it was deflected by Naruto's tails. As the tails and sand fought, Naruto unleashed a vicious barrage on Gaara. The red head, not used to having to defend himself, took the beating helplessly. Suddenly the sand completely encased Naruto and Gaara. Team 8 tensed while Temari and Kankuro shook their head. Your teammate's dead now, Kankuro stated. Yeah, being able to land a hit on Gaara is impressive, but now there is no way he can get out of that alive. Temari added. Just as she said that, the sand dome exploded outward and Naruto stood holding Gaara by the collar, his chakra tails thrashing wildly. You don't impress me, Naruto said as he tossed Gaara toward Temari and Kankuro. The blonde then turned away from Gaara and walked back to his team. The red head began to lose control as he watched Naruto walk away. No, you can't ignore my existence. I won't let you. Gaara shouted, then he sent an enormous wave of sand at Team 7. Hinata and Shino prepared to perform substitution jutsu, but Naruto turned and released a roar filled with Kyuubi chakra. The roar blasted the wave away and forced the Suna siblings to shield themselves from the sand and wind the attack sent their way. When they looked again, all three gasped at Naruto standing right next Gaara holding his trench knife to the red head's neck. I will end your existence if you try that again, Naruto growled as he stepped away Gaara. The blonde then led his team into the tower. The trio then entered one of the empty rooms at base and looked at the quote on wall. If qualities of heaven are what you desire, then seek wisdom to take your mind higher. If earthen qualities are what you lack, then train your body and prepare to attack. When heaven and earth are opened together, the pairless path becomes righteous forever. This blank is the secret way that guides us from the world today. Hinata read, then turned to Naruto and Shino. Open one earth scroll and one heaven, just get rid of the rest. Naruto said as he tossed Hinata an earth. He then took the rest of the scrolls he had and burned them. Shino then handed her a heaven scroll before tossing his remaining scrolls in Naruto's fire. Hinata pulled out her scrolls and threw them in the fire before opening up the scrolls Shino and Naruto handed her. It says human, Hinata said. Naruto glanced at the scrolls and then sighed. They're summoning scrolls. Toss them, Naruto said. Hinata nodded and tossed the scrolls just as they began to sizzle. When the scrolls hit the ground, they joined together, forming an X. Then the moment they stopped moving, a puff of smoke erupted from them. When the smoke cleared, Iruka stood smiling at the group. Congratulations, you're the first team to pass, Iruka said as looked at the team. Not only that, but you blew the previous record out the water. So what do we do while we're here? Naruto asks. Whatever you want to. There is a training facility, mess hall, and even a game room. Just keep out of trouble until the final 4 days are up, Iruka said as he led them to the main hall of the tower. Naruto smirked, but Iruka caught it. No, you can't go back out and eliminate more teams. Naruto glared but didn't argue. Chapter 13. Chunin Exams Part 3, The Prelims Scene 1. Naruto was awoken by rays of sunlight shining through the window onto his face. The blonde groaned and turned over in a futile attempt to drift back to sleep, but eventually he sat up. Looking around the room, the blonde noticed his two teammates still sleeping peacefully. Quietly as his ninja skills allowed him, Naruto got up and made his way to the bathroom to prepare for the day. Good morning, Naruto-kun, Hinata greeted as Naruto exited the bathroom. The blonde stifled a yawn and waved to the young Hyuga heiress. Naruto then nodded to Shino in a silent greeting in which the stoic ninja returned. So what are you planning to do while we wait for the time limit to expire? Naruto asked as Hinata entered the bathroom. I feel it would be best to train lightly. This would ensure that our bodies are rested for anything yet not out of shape in any way. Shino replied. That's probably for the best, Naruto replied. The room was filled with comfortable silence for a moment until it was broken. Naruto, may I ask you a question? Shino asked, turning to look at the blonde. Without his shades on, deep brown eyes stared evenly into flaming blue. Sure, Naruto replied. You said Hinata stated she loved you right before she entered her death-like state, Shino said before looking at Naruto for confirmation. The blonde Jinchuriku nodded, so Shino continued. Have the two of you discussed this? No, we haven't, Naruto answered distantly as his mind replayed the incident. I believe it would be best if you did. Issues concerning strong emotions with other teammates tend to put strain on teamwork. Shino said. Naruto returned his attention to Shino and sighed. I understand, but what do I tell her? I honestly can't say if feel that way about her. Naruto replied. Besides emotions like love or distractions, caring makes you weak. Usually I wouldn't argue with the logic of your statement, but I truly disagree. Naruto, I can see that you care for our teammate. Not only did you destroy an entire city when you believe her dead, but anytime somebody male besides me talks to her you tense slightly in irritation. You care for her, but your everlasting rage and apathy clouds that feeling. Shino replied. Naruto grunted but made no other response, causing Shino to shake his head. You are sounding like Uchiha-san. Before Naruto could respond, Hinata emerged from the bathroom. Shino walked into bathroom moments afterward, leaving Naruto and Hinata alone in their room. The blonde pondered Shino's words as he watched Hinata sit down on her bed and look out the window. He watched as the sun caused her midnight blue hair to shine in the room. Her pale skin seemingly glowed from the light. How do I feel about her? Naruto thought as he continued to study Hinata. You want her? Kyuubi replied. How do you know? Naruto asked skeptically. The insect child explained it if you were listening. Kyuubi stated casually. I heard what he said, but Naruto started only to end when he found no way to explain his doubts in Shino's words. You realize it, but you are frightened. Kyuubi said. What do I have to fear? Naruto retorted. In fact, why do you care? You fear that others will treat her like they treat you if you return her feelings. As for my concern, to be frank, I don't care. Kyuubi replied, growling slightly. That's insane. If anybody attempted to treat like that, I would kill them. Naruto retorted. Kyuubi sighed, frustrated by the boy's blatant rejection to his own feelings. Naruto-kun. Hinata called, snapping Naruto out of his mental conversation with the King of Demons. Huh? Naruto asks. Hinata tilted her head slightly in confusion. The blonde just kept an even gaze, so she shook her head. I asked if you were alright. You were staring at me and didn't respond when I called you the first few times. Hinata explained. Yeah, I'm fine. Naruto replied. Hinata nodded and smiled softly at Naruto. Naruto was about to say something when Shino exited the bathroom. Should we go train now? Shino asked as he sat on his bed. Yeah, sure. Naruto said as he got up and made his way out the room, Hinata and Shino right behind him. As Naruto walked out the dorm room, he flipped on his hood and began to think about what Shino had told him. The trio walked casually to the training facility when they bumped into the Suna team. Gaara glared holes into Naruto while leaking killer intent. The blonde smirked as he blasted Gaara back with his own killer intent. We had this battle before. I will kill you this time if you're not careful. Naruto said as his eyes blazed red under his hood. I was foolish and I underestimated you. Unfortunately for you, I won't make the same mistake twice. Gaara retorted as a devilish grin began to spread on his face. You are truly powerful, Uzumaki. Killing you will definitely prove my existence. Interesting, you seem to think you are capable of beating me. Let point something out to you. Your demon is weaker than mine while you yourself are weaker than me. Why would you think that you could beat me? Naruto asked, truly confused at Gaara's behavior. Simple. Your lust for blood is weaker than mine. Gaara stated, then walked away, his teammates right behind him. Naruto rolled his eyes before he continued on to the training facility with Hinata and Shino. As they approached the facility, they were stopped when A3 kunai flew straight at their faces. The blonde paid the weapon no mind as it was blocked by a chakra tail. Hinata and Shino lazily caught weapons between their two fingers before dropping them to the floor. Anko-sensei, the Naruto stated coolly. Anko then emerged from the shadows sporting a mile-wide grin. Brats, I'm proud. Not only were you the first team to enter He Tower, but you destroyed the last record by 36 hours. Anko said as she walked up to her team. Is there anything you needed? Naruto asks. What? Can't a sensei see her pupils to congratulate them on doing great? Anko said as she engulfed the three in a bear hug. You seem different though, sensei. Hinata stated. Anko smirked as she released them. Oh, that. I have just happened upon a little money courtesy of your performance. Anko explained. You bet on us. Shino asks. Yeah, and I made bank. I bet that you guys would be the first team and break the record. Every Junin and Anbu in our village bet against that, and now I have enough money to buy this fucking forest and not even dent my funds. Anko said as she grabbed Naruto's head and kissed him right on the forehead. Before the blonde could pull away, Anko grabbed him and began to dance around. Hinata giggled at the foolish display while Shino shook his head in amusement. After a couple of minutes of dancing, Naruto finally managed to break free of Anko's death grip. Well, I'm happy for you, Anko-sensei. Hinata said as Anko calmed down somewhat. Thanks, Brad, but my newfound wealth can wait right now. We need to train a little to make sure you guys stay sharp. Anko stated as she opened the door to the train facility. Alright brats, I want 10 laps around the track, 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 200 sit-ups to start off. After that I want you to go through your katas, taijutsu and weapons. Finally I want you to review your jutsu and practice any you haven't got down yet. Anko said, her voice strict and unbending. Teammate nodded before taking off on the track. Might as well join them, Anko said as she ran to catch up with her team. 4 days later, Naruto, Hinata, and Shino stood on the floor of the sparring arena with the 7 other genin teams that had made it to the tower with both scrolls. The time limit had expired moments ago and Kurenai had instructed the teams who had passed to there. Seem likes all the rookies passed so far. Kiba stated as he inspected the competition. Yaso did the team with Hinata's relative, the Suna team, Kabuto's team, Aim team, and the Odo team. Naruto said he caught the glare the other Hyuga was giving Hinata. The boy then turned to Naruto and the blonde glared at him. The boy rolled his eyes before looking back at his teammates. Congratulations on passing the exams so far. Sarutobi said, gaining the attention of all the genin. To make it this far is a great accomplishment in itself. You have all made your villages proud. Sarutobi started only to stop as another ninja with his hitayate in a bandana style over his head and a senbon needle in his mouth like a toothpick approached the Hokage and whispered something in his ear. The Hokage nodded, stepped back, and let the ninja speak. I'm Genma and I'm your proctor for the next portion of your exams. It has come to our attention that there are too many of you. This means we will have a preliminary round right now. Genma stated. What? We just got out of that forest and now you want us to fight? Kiba shouted in frustration. It can't be helped. There will many important people coming to see the final portion of the exam. We can't have it take too long and lose their attention. Genma stated. Now the preliminary round will consist of one-on-one fights. You fight until somebody is unable to continue or dead. If I think that the battle has a clear winner I will intervene, but that is purely on my judgment, so don't expect to be bailed out of hard situations. If you think you're in trouble, forfeit. Now everybody but 2 names, the board says, head up to the balcony. The genin looked up to the board to see it was scrolling through names. When it stopped, 2 genin smirked arrogantly. Mubi versus Neji Hyuga. As everybody went up, the Hyuga looked at the Aim ninja with a smirk. Though he wore an air mask-like mouthpiece and only had one eye visible, it was apparent in the way he held himself that he was smirking right back. Suggest you give up. Fate has already decided me to be the victor. Neji said as he slid into the Juken stance. Konaha ninja are always so full of themselves. I'll enjoy beating that smirk off your face. Mubi retorted as he prepared to make hand signs. Are both competitors ready? Genma asked as he stood between the two. Both boys nodded, not even taking their eyes off each other. First match between Neji Hyuga and Mubi, begin. Genma shouted before jumping onto the balcony. Mubi was the first to react and began a short series of hand signs, then said, Haze clone. Within an instant the floor was covered in clones surround Neji. The Hyuga prodigy didn't even flinch and casually activated his Byakugan. One of the clones charged and threw a punch at the Hyuga, but he made no move to stop it. When the fist connected, it phased right through Neji and he rolled his eyes. I will ask again, give up. The outcome was decided the moment I was chosen as your opponent. Neji stated, causing an irritated growl to be emitted from within the mass of clones. Suddenly multiple clones began to charge at Neji. As they phased through him, Neji sighed. Then out of nowhere Neji spun and struck at an incoming Mubi right in the gut with an open palm. The blow landed and all the clones dispersed while the single Mubi coughed out blood onto Neji's arm. How? Mubi asks. You didn't do your research. Neji stated as he removed his palm from Mubi's gut, causing him to fall on his face. Hyuga have a dojutsu that allows us to see the chakra system and more. You clones don't have chakra systems, so finding the original was child's play. As Genma called the match, Neji walked up to his team and joined them without a word. The rest of the genin looked to the board and saw it already had two names. Rock Lee versus Naruto Uzumaki. Yosh. I will show everybody that my flames of youth burn brighter than the sun. Neji's spandex-wearing teammate shouted as he jumped down to the floor. Good luck, Lee. Their Junin-sensei yelled, an almost exact copy of Lee. Naruto rolled his eyes at the antics before using a fire shunshin to get to the floor. Are both competitors ready? Genma asks. Lee nodded enthusiastically while Naruto rolled his eyes while he nodded. Then let the second match between Naruto Uzumaki and Rock Lee begin. Genma shouted, then he jumped onto the balcony. Immediately Lee charged Naruto and aimed a straight punch to his face. The blonde didn't react as it was blocked by a tail of chakra. Lee jumped back before jumping into the air, aiming a helicopter kick at Naruto's face only for the chakra tail block again. Lee adjusted his body and sent a spinning kick at Naruto's ankles faster than before. This time another tail of chakra appeared and blocked it. Lee flipped away and smiled. Naruto-san, you are truly a worthy adversary. Lee said as he entered the Goken stance. Lee, take him off. Guy shouted from the balcony. Lee saluted to his sensei before jumping onto the stone ram hand sign in the front of the arena. The spandex-clad ninja then proceeded to remove the ankle weights he had hidden under his orange leg warmers. Lee then dropped them to the floor below and everybody gasped as they formed two enormous craters upon impact. Naruto smirked. Now things are getting interesting. The blonde said as he uncrossed his arms and got into a fighting stance. Lee disappeared in a burst of speed and in the next moment a chakra tail moved to side of Naruto's head. A loud bang was heard and everybody turned to see Lee's punch being blocked by the tail. Lee disappeared again and the other tail moved behind Naruto, blocking Lee's straight kick. Lee smirked at Naruto and disappeared again. Another tail shot out Naruto's lower back and blocked Naruto's face from a knee from Lee. Lee jumped back and smiled. Now that I'm done warming up, Lee said while cracking his knuckles. Naruto shrugged and the 6 remaining tails shot out Naruto's lower back and began swaying menacingly. Lee then disappeared and the tails began moving around faster than most of the genin could see, blocking strikes from the impossible Ly fast genin. Naruto smirked as he tapped his chest and his trench knives appeared from their seal. Naruto put them on casually, then put his hood on. All the while the tails continued to block Lee's almost untraceable attacks. You know, Lee, you're really good. My tails can barely match your speed right now and I know you're faster than this, but I need to tell you something, Naruto said as his eyes began to blaze blood red under his hood. Then faster than anybody could see, Naruto ducked then threw an uppercut into the air. Everybody gasped as Lee went flipping back from the blow and landed hard on his back. I can still see you. Lee got up slowly and shook his head dazed, but before he could regain focus completely, Naruto was in front of him. Naruto drilled a knee into Lee's chest and sent him flying back. In an instant Naruto was where Lee was heading. Naruto sent an elbow at Lee's head, only for Lee to adjust his body and block it. The two disappeared and a boom came from the center of the room. When everybody looked, nobody was there, and then another sounded from on top of the ram hand sign. This time before anybody had the chance to look, another boom sounded on the other side of the arena. Soon the booms were coming so fast it was impossible to tell where they were coming from. Lee has opened the first gate. Guy stated. Anko turned to him and smirked. Naruto just released his weights. Anko replied. That shouldn't matter, he won't be able to keep up with Lee now. Guy replied. A boom was heard followed by a crash into the wall caused dust to cover the area. When it cleared, Lee could be seen pulling himself out of the wall. Guy turned to Anko shocked. How? He asked wide-eyed. He's had those chakra weights since he was 5 and has never once removed them. Then you have to remember Kyuubi heals all his wounds faster than normal, including torn muscles. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he was fast enough to match your Lee in the third gate. Anko stated, grinning wildly. Then the two disappeared and within a moment the booms were accompanied by grunts of pain. Then another crash was heard and the center of the arena exploded. When the smoke cleared, Lee was slowly getting out of a crater. His body was covered in bruises and cuts. Naruto landed at the edge of the crater and smirked. Come on, don't quit on me now, I was just starting to have fun. Naruto stated. Lee got up and crossed his arms over his chest. Second gate. Gate of healing open. Third gate. Gate of life open. Lee's skin turned red and his hair stood up. Fourth gate. Gate of pain open. Chakra began to visible swirl around Lee while his body gave off a green glow and his eyes became pure white. Naruto smirked and Kyuubi's chakra encased him. Unlike the time the chakra encased him in Jin, the chakra retained its transparent red color. Naruto and Lee charged at each other again. This time the floor underneath them exploded from the force of their movement. Soon sonic booms were heard everywhere along with huge craters forming wherever the boys landed and took off from. This isn't a battle between two genin, Kakashi said, making Chunin and genin alike look to him. Some were shocked to see he had his Sharingan out watching. He's right. Asuma agreed. No mere genin should be able to fight like this. Heck, I can't track their speed. Guy, how could you teach your student this forbidden technique? His muscles are tearing and if this fight doesn't end soon they will be nothing more than shreds. Kakashi said, not taking his eyes off the match in front of him. Guy didn't reply but instead he looked back at the arena. Suddenly Naruto and Lee appeared on the railing with Lee blocking a kick with his forearm. The two began to exchange strikes on the railing so fast that they were just blurs. Suddenly Lee was shot toward the ground and Naruto followed after destroying the railing. Lee hit the ground forming a crater. Naruto impacted with him so hard that the crater doubled in size while the entire arena shook. When the smoke cleared, Naruto was seen standing on an unconscious Lee's chest. Genma jumped down and checked Lee. The proctor then gestured for the medics and stood up. Winner Naruto Uzumaki. Genma stated as Naruto walked back to his team. Chapter 14. Chunin Exams Part 3, The Prelims Scene 2. Kiba Inuzuka vs Zaku Abumi. Alright, guess it's my turn. You ready, boy? Kiba said. Akamaru barked in excitement from on top of Kiba's head. Kiba smirked as he jumped over the remains of the railing onto the arena floor. By the stairs of the end of the balcony, Zaku looked at his team and grinned. Looks like I'm up. Watch and be amazed, losers. Zaku said as he walked down the stairs. His female teammate glared while his other teammate, who was completely covered in gauze like a mummy, rolled his only visible eye. Once Kiba and Zaku on the arena floor, Genma walked between them. Save it. We're ready, Zaku said, cutting off Genma. Kiba nodded in agreement. Genma shrugged. Alright, let the third match of the prelims begin. Genma said before jumping onto the balcony. How do you plan on fighting me without your arms? Kiba said, glancing at Zaku's arms which were in slings. Don't worry about that. In fact, this one is feeling better. Zaku said, pulling one arm out of the sling and flexing it and rotating it. Like that will make a difference. Kiba said as he took Akamaru off his head. Then in a burst of speed, Kiba was in front of Zaku. Kiba threw a haymaker at Zaku's face only for the crippled ninja to smirk. Too slow, Zaku said as he ducked under the punch and placed the palm of his free hand on Kiba's stomach. Before the Inuzuka could react, he was blasted away. Kiba got up and shook his head in a fashion similar to a dog before smirking at Zaku. Now we're talking. I was having some reservation about beating on a cripple, but now I guess I don't have to hold back so much. Kiba said as he pulled out a capsule and tossed it at Zaku. Before the Oto ninja could react, the capsule exploded in smoke and covering most of area. What good will that do? Zaku asked as he blew all the away with a quick wave of his hand. Zaku looked back at Kiba to see the Inuzuka was no longer standing in the same spot. On reflex, Zaku turned around only to receive a punch to the face. While Zaku was still stunned, Kiba punched him in the stomach, causing Zaku to double over in pain. Kiba then grabbed Zaku's head and kneed Zaku in the face, knocking the boy away. Kiba's really just a brawler with a few tricks, Naruto stated as he watched the fight. It does fit him well though, Shikamaru replied through a yawn. Yeah, until he has to fight somebody who has reflexes fast enough to counter his attacks. That Lee kid I fought would probably beat him in an instant, Naruto replied. You give my teammate too much credit. Lee was destined to lose that fight the moment it began. Fate has decided him a loser since birth, a voice stated, and the rookies turned to see Neji leaning against the wall with his female teammate right next to him. If that kid's a loser, then everybody here wouldn't be worth my time, Naruto said. I have only 3 people who have forced me to ever push my limits. I fought Orochimaru of the Sannin was only toying with me when I fought him full force. My brother Yamato's Kekkei Genkai can nullify Kyuubi's chakra, so I always have to fight him with everything I have. Finally, Lee is so fast that toward the end of her fight Kyuubi's chakra was flowing through my system just so I could keep up. To be completely honest, our fight was only slightly in me favor until we landed on the railing. At that point the backlash of opening the 8 gates was what won me our fight, and he still was going at it until he flinched from that pain. It doesn't matter, he will still never become any more than a dead last. Neji replied. I doubt it. I'm sure if he were to fight you he wouldn't have to open more than the second gate to beat you. That's overrating your skills by a lot too. Naruto replied. Suddenly the immediate area dropped 20 degrees. Naruto gazed at Neji, who was brimming with poorly contained killer intent. Hit a nerve. Naruto acts as Neji glared at him. That weakling will never beat me. Neji growled. Are you trying to convince me or yourself? Naruto replied as he returned Neji's glare with an even gaze. Neji growled before turned back to the fight. Naruto rolled his eye before turning back as well, just in time to see a currently red Orochimaru jump onto Kiba, who was crouched at all 4. Secret art. Man-beast clone. Kiba said as he and Orochimaru were engulfed in a cloud of smoke. When it cleared, Orochimaru had transformed into Kiba while both he and the original were extremely feral in appearance. Fang over fang. Kiba said as he and Orochimaru turned into 2 spinning drills going straight at Zaku. The teenage shinobi glared before pulling his other hand out of its sling and pointing both his arms at the drills. Tunneling air cannon. Zaku shouted and 2 jets of air shoot out of his arms and hit Kiba and Orochimaru. Though the blast of wind didn't stop the 2 spinning drills, it did redirect them enough to miss Zaku. The 2 drills came to a stop and Kiba and Orochimaru turned to face Zaku, grinning at the Oto ninja. Now things are about to get interesting. Try to keep up. Kiba said as he and Orochimaru became drills again and came barreling at Zaku again twice as fast. The Oto ninja smirked as he jumped over the first drill, then adjusted his body in mid-air to avoid the second one. Oh, I will. Zaku said as he turned around and shot one of the drills in the back. The drill crashed into the wall and was engulfed in smoke. When it cleared, Orochimaru lay motionless at the base of the wall. Orochimaru. Kiba's voice came the other drill. That drill turned around and shot straight for Zaku. He really has no control over his emotions. Shino stated as everybody watched Kiba keep trying to hit Zaku even though the ninja was now just playing with him. He'll get killed with that lack of control. Sasuke replied. Enough games. Zaku said as he jumped over, spinning Kiba one more time. You're boring me. Kiba came spinning at Zaku one more time and Zaku brought both his hands up, pointing both air holes right at Kiba. Just as Kiba got within a few feet of him, Zaku released a blast of wind from both his arms. To his surprise, Kiba wasn't blasted away like most thought would happen. Instead, the boy was stopped in his tracks, yet he continued to spin. Suddenly Kiba began spinning faster and he inched closer to Zaku. Zaku glared and pushed out more wind chakra through his air holes and Kiba stopped moving forward again. Well, they're at a stalemate. Shikamaru said. This won't end well. Choji replied. Why? Ino asks. Those 2 are putting all of their chakra into this attack. They will reach their limit in a moment, then there is no telling what could happen. Hinata said as she looked at the fight with her Byakugan active. As Zaku and Kiba continued to battle for dominance, the wind from Zaku's jutsu whipped wildly between the 2. Zaku glared as he saw Kiba's drilling body move even closer until it was only inches from his hands. With a growl of effort, Zaku put even more chakra into his jutsu. Suddenly Kiba stopped spinning and was launched into the wall, creating a crater as large as the one Naruto had made with Lee. Zaku smirked, but it was short-lived when he attempted stopped his air tunnels and found he couldn't. What the Zaku started until searing pain started envelope his hands. Then blood began to flow out of his hands along with the wind, forming 2 twin jets of red mist. What's happening to him? Tenten asked over the screaming of Zaku. Wind chakra cuts. Naruto stated. Apparently those tubes he uses to shoot wind chakra out reached their limit and malfunctioned. Now they won't stop, and now they're destroying his arms from the inside out. Oh my god. Ino whispered as she turned away from the scene. After a few seconds the jets stopped and Zaku collapsed to the ground unconscious from the pain. Genma dropped down onto the arena floor and glanced at Kiba's body still embedded into the wall. He then turned to Zaku, who was laying face down, blood seeping out of both his hands. Both competitors can no longer battle, so the match ends in a draw. Genma said before motioning to the medics. Within moments the medic had removed Kiba and Zaku from the arena floor. When they did, Genma looked at the four corners on the roof before nodding. To the surprise of most, multiple Anbu appeared on the arena floor and began fixing damage done. 3 began filling the craters using mud jutsu while they were hardened by Anbu using fire jutsu. When all the craters were filled, the Anbu disappeared and the screen began to shuffle through names again. Kankuro vs Ino Yamanaka. Alright, it's my turn. I'm going to kick ass. Ino shouted before flipping down to the arena floor. This one's for you, Sasuke-kun. While I'm fighting a fangirl, this is going to be a waste of my time. Kankuro replied as he walked down the steps. I heard that, asshole. Ino shouted. You were supposed to. Kankuro retorted. Ino growled but bit back any further retorts. Alright, fourth match between Kankuro and Ino Yamanaka begin. Genma said right before he jumped back onto the railing. I'll give you the first move. Kankuro stated as he took the bundle off his back and leaned on it like a cane. You'll regret that. Ino replied. Ino formed a hand sign before pointing it at Kankuro. Mind-body switch jutsu. Ino collapsed and for a minute nothing happened. Then chuckling began to emit from the bundle. The wrappings began to fall off to reveal Kankuro laughing. Before anybody could make heads or tails of the situation, the first Kankuro's skin began to peel off, revealing a puppet. Wow, and here I thought Konaha ninja were elite of the shinobi world. Kankuro said, looking at Ino's prone form. Proctor, can I go back up? Kankuro said as he looked to Genma. Hey, I'm not done yet. Kankuro turned to see Ino standing with a kunai in each hand. You really are over your head. You should just give up. Kankuro replied. Funny thing about us Konaha shinobi. We don't know how to give up. Ino retorted before she charged Kankuro. The Suna shinobi sighed before he commanded his puppet to intercept her. Both hands shot off the puppet's wrist to reveal 2 blades coated in dark purple liquid. Careful, both those blades are coated in a very lethal poison. Kankuro stated casually as he sent his puppet on the attack. Ino was about to respond until she was forced to block one blade with her kunai. Ino gasped when she felt the strength of the blow. The puppet then swept its other blade, aiming to decapitate Ino. The platinum blonde blocked the strike with her other kunai. Bad move. Kankuro stated as he flicked a finger and his puppet opened its mouth and a cloud of purple smoke engulfed Ino. Proctor, she'll probably need medical attention. That poison gas takes effect in less than. Kankuro started until he felt something press against his throat. Another thing about us Konaha shinobi is it's very unwise to underestimate us. Ino whispered into his ear. Now you can either give up now or I can see how fast it takes to drain the blood from your body. How about the third option, you die? Kankuro replied before his skin peeled off to reveal another puppet. The puppet opened its torso and pulled Ino inside. Then the first puppet body disassembled, revealing Kankuro inside. You should be very proud. Not any genin could force me to use Crow and Black Ant. Now I suggest you give up. There is no way out, and if you force me to, I will kill you. Kankuro replied with a smirk. Fine, Proctor, I submit. Ino muffled voice stated from inside of Black Ant. Kankuro smirked as he opened the torso of the puppet. Ino was trapped. Kankuro pulled out a scroll and sealed Black Ant before he wrapped Crow up again. Upon finishing, Kankuro made his way up to the balcony to join his siblings and sensei. You used Crow and Black Ant. You really are pathetic to be forced to use both of them against such a weak opponent. Temari remarked as Kankuro joined them. Kankuro ignored the jab as he watched the screen shuffle through names. Sakura Haruno vs Dosu Kinyuda. Of course I get the weakest one here. Dosu replied as he looked down the balcony to see Sakura had visibly paled. Dosu rolled his eyes before jumping down to the arena floor. Sakura, you can always give up if you think you're not capable of holding your own. Kakashi stated as he saw the anxiety in Sakura's eyes as she looked down at her opponent. No, I won't give up before the match has even started. Sakura said as she jumped down to the arena floor. Are you both ready? Genma asked as he landed between the two. Receiving 2 nods, Genma said, fifth match between Sakura Haruno and Dosu Kinyuda begin. Almost before Genma could jump up to balcony, Sakura charged Dosu. Surprised by the offensive tactic, Dosu almost didn't react fast enough to dodge the wild haymaker Sakura threw. At the last minute though, Dosu dove under the strike. Sakura had thrown most of her weight into the punch, resulting in her losing balance when the strike missed Dosu. Using the opening, Dosu hit Sakura with an uppercut to the jaw that sent her flying back to where she originally started. Pathetic. You fought better in the forest. Dosu stated as Sakura got up shakily. Ignoring his comment, Sakura went through a few hand seals. When she finished, 4 clones appeared on either side of her. The clone and original pulled out kunai before circling Dosu. Suddenly all of the Sakura clones charged Dosu, aiming to stab him with their weapon. The Oto shinobi's eyes shone devilishly before spun around and caught a Sakura by the wrist and twisted. A scream of pain informed everybody that Dosu had broken Sakura's wrist. The clones all disappeared in puffs of smoke. Do Sakura suddenly lack in focus to keep them up, and Dosu shook his head. That simple trick may have been able to keep my teammate off guard, but I could tell which was the real entire time. Dosu said arrogantly as he released Sakura only to kick her in the chest, sending flying into a wall. Sakura grunted in pain before sliding down the wall into a sitting position. You see, the thing about clones are that they don't affect their environment. They don't leave footprints or shadows. In this case, they don't make noise. When a kunai is swung, a slight whizzing noise is made as the blade cuts through the air. Only the original made that noise. Dosu explained. Sakura spat out some blood before she got up. This time Dosu charged and punched Sakura in the stomach with his gauntlet-covered fist. Sakura gasped as she was lifted off her feet. Then, without warning, Sakura yelled in pain and threw up. Dosu was just fast enough to avoid being hit with the vomit. Sakura grabbed her ear before she fell to the ground unconscious in her own puke. Winner Dosu, Genma said as the medics placed Sakura on a stretcher and took her away. Sasuke Uchiha vs Oboro. It's bout time, Oboro said as he dropped down to the floor. Sasuke simply smirked as he followed suit. When both competitors dropped into fighting stances, Genma took that as being ready before he addressed the crowd. 6th match between Sasuke Uchiha and Oboro begin. Almost before Genma had time to jump back to the balcony, Oboro flashed through hand signs. Demonic illusion. Hell viewing jutsu. Oboro murmured so nobody heard him. While he had murmured, the aim genin had continued hand signs before yelling, water style, black rain jutsu. A large cloud covered the ceiling before rain started to pour down on everybody. As this oil, Ino Axe attempted to use Choji's arms to keep herself dry. Yeah, Naruto answered as a tail of chakra shot out of his lower back and expanded large enough to block any oil from landing on his team. Wow, you're using Kyuubi's power like an awning. That's new, Anko said as she looked up at the chakra tail keeping the oil off them. Naruto didn't respond, he just looked at the fight. You're a genius, so I'm guessing you know why I did this, don't you? Oboro asks. You realized since I'm part of the Uchiha clan I specialize in fire jutsu. With oil raining down, any jutsu I do will blow up in my face. Oboro nodded. But I'm not done yet, Oboro said as he did more hand signs. Water style. Hidden mist jutsu. Then the oil on the floor and still raining formed a thick black mist that completely blocked the arena from being viewed at the balcony. Why did Sasuke just watch him do all those jutsu? Sakura asks. None of those other ninjas' jutsus were attacks. In Sasuke's eyes, all the aim ninja did was waste chakra. Kakashi explained. Sasuke focused in an attempt to find Oboro through the black mist. The Uchiha prodigy then whipped around when he sensed somebody behind him, only to gasp. Sasuke began to back away as the person he felt was his older brother, murderer of the Uchiha clan, the infamous Itachi Uchiha. Hello baby brother, Itachi said. How did you get in here? Sasuke asked, fear evident in his voice. There are Anbu here, even the Hokage is in this room, you couldn't have snuck in. Are you sure? A voice whispered in Sasuke's ear. The youngest of the remaining Uchiha blood ran cold as the Itachi in front of him dispersed into multiple ravens. You came here to finish what you started? Sasuke asks. Yes, Itachi stated as the sound of a sword being drawn echoed in Sasuke's ear. Something snapped in Sasuke and he jumped back while glaring at his brother. I don't think so. Sasuke activated his Sharingan. To his surprise, Itachi's image faded and he could see chakra swirling around him. Genjutsu, Sasuke murmured. Sasuke released the genjutsu just in time to duck under a kunai that would have otherwise buried itself in his forehead. You broke free already, Oboro panted out as he disappeared into the mist. You sound tired, Sasuke stated as he tried to locate Oboro. For a while nothing happened, but then Sasuke flipped into the air, avoiding a sluggish attack from Oboro. Sasuke made to attack, but he suddenly felt searing pain in his shoulder where his curse mark was located. Not now, Sasuke murmured as he fell onto his stomach, unable to complete his flip. What's the matter? Something not agreeing with you? Oboro said as he kicked the downed Sasuke in the stomach. Sasuke managed to get up only to receive punch to the gut. Oboro was about to hit Sasuke the face only for Sasuke to catch his wrist. Enough, Sasuke growled. Sasuke, while still holding Oboro's wrist, Sasuke kicked him in the face. Sasuke then jabbed Oboro in the face, breaking his nose. Oboro held his nose to stem the flow of blood. You shit, I'm going to kick your ass. Oboro shouted only to receive a punch to the temple, knocking him out. With not Oboro awake to continue his jutsu, the mist faded and the black rain stopped. What happened down there? At first Sasuke was talking nonsense down there, then all of a sudden it started to sound like he was kicking ass. Ino acts as she released Choji's arm, allowing him to put it down. Sasuke was put under a genjutsu at the beginning of the fight, but the AIM ninja's abilities with hand seals is impressive. He did 3 different jutsus, yet if he hadn't have spoke it would only seemed like one. Kurenai replied. But it cost him performing such a feat drain him of chakra, so he had to recover, giving Sasuke the time to break free of the genjutsu. Asuma retorted. I'm sorry for not updating my story lately. I just moved and now with school about start back up I've been busy. Chapter 15. Chunin Exams Part 3, The Prelims Scene 3. Shikamaru Nara vs Kabuto Yakushi. Troublesome, Shikamaru mumbled. Proctor, that forest was rough and I'm still not ready to fight again. I submit, Kabuto stated. Genma shrugged before announcing Shikamaru the winner. Oh, this is too troublesome. Shikamaru moaned. Why? You didn't even have to fight. Ino acts. He's upset because he has to compete in the finals. Naruto explained just as the names on the board stopped shuffling. Kintsuchi vs Tenten. Good luck, my precious student. Show them all that your flames of youth burn as bright as the sun on the hottest of summer days. Guy shouted as Tenten jumped down to the arena floor. Konaha is full of weirdos. Kin mumbled as she walked into the center of the arena. He's one of the best, he has every right to be a little eccentric. Tenten retorted. Insult my sensei or my village again and it might be the last thing you do. Hit a nerve, did I? Kin mocked. Tenten didn't respond. Are you both ready? Genma asks. Both Kunoichi nodded, though the arrogance in Kin's nod was almost tangible. Then let the 8 match between Kintsuchi and Tenten begin. Genma said before jumping onto the railing. Almost simultaneously the girls jumped back while reaching into their weapons pouches. Kin pulled out a fistful Senbon needles, some had small bells attached to the ends, while Tenten held a few kunai and shuriken. That was foolish, Guy stated to nobody in general. His sudden comment actually drew more attention since his voice wasn't raised to a tone that could cause hearing loss. How so? Asuma asks. Tenten is a weapons specialist. Guy replied. The spandex-clad Junin shook his head. While the girls is no master at any specific weapon, her skill far surpasses anybody who not a master themselves. On top of that, her aim is flawless. She's never missed. So trying to fight Tenten with weapons is a difficult task to accomplish. Shino acts. It's almost impossible. Guy corrected. Kin launched her Senbon at Tenten, then crossed her fingers in a hand seal that Naruto immediately recognized. Shadow Senbon Jutsu. Kin stated as the few Senbon she had instantly become dozens. Tenten didn't even bat an eyelash. She just tossed 4 kunai forward, then launching another to the side at an almost untraceable speed. Tenten twitched her finger slightly and the kunai she tossed to the side curved behind the Senbon Kin had tossed. Almost as soon as the faster kunai passed behind the last Senbon, the 4 kunai she tossed bounced off Senbon, deflecting all the small needles by ricocheting around the small wave of needles. How did she do that? Ino asks. Like Guy Sensei said, Tenten's aim is flawless. Neji answered. Ino just stared dumbstruck. But was the other kunai for? Choji asked while eating from a bag of chips. Ninja wire was attached to the extremity of some of the Senbon needles. I assume Tenten-san didn't know what they were for but didn't want to take any chances. Shino explained as he adjusted his shades. How did you catch the wire? Kin asked as she pulled the, now useless, ninja wire off her fingertips. Tenten didn't respond. Oh, now you're too good to talk. Kin stated, her temper rising dangerously. Tenten just crossed her arms over her chest and shifted her weight over to one foot. Oh, now you're dead. Kin growled before pulling out two kunai and charging blindly at Tenten. The Konaha genin just shook her head. Just before Kin was in striking distance, Tenten drummed her fingers against her bicep and the four kunai she had thrown earlier came shooting at Kin and embedded themselves in her calves and biceps. Kin fell to her knees and looked at Tenten stunned. Tenten pulled out a kunai and placed the blade against Kin's throat. Chakra strings are far more efficient than ninja wire. Tenten stated coolly. Winner Tenten. Genma announced as he dropped down to the arena floor. Tenten winked at Kin before jumping up to the top railing. Shino Aburame vs Yoroi Akato. Well, this should be interesting. Yoroi teammate Masumi murmured to Kabuto. Indeed, the two chakra suckers of the Chunin exams. Kabuto replied, leaning on the railing to get a closer view. Across the arena on the other balcony, the conversation of the fight was much more lively. Dude, it's like the two masked men. Kiba stated. Shino is like Bugman and that Yoroi could be his archenemy. I'm drawing a blank. Anybody got an idea? Kiba, I don't think I've said it enough, so let me reiterate. You are an idiot, Naruto said. The group of genin nodded in agreement. Ignoring Kiba's stupidity, this match does seem like it would be interesting. We saw that guy and his two teammates in the forest. That Yoroi has the ability to suck chakra from a person with physical contact, while the Aburame are famous for their insects that suck people of their chakra. Shikamaru stated. Guess we're going to find out who's the best sucker. Choji stated. Dude, that just sounds gay. Kiba stated. Akamaru yipped in agreement. Troublesome, but honestly Choji, he's right, choose your words better. Shikamaru stated. But when did you get back here? Weren't you in the medical ward? I got back right as the spandex dude's teammate used chakra strings and the kunai to beat her opponent. Kiba answered. The doc said my back will be a little sensitive, but other than that I should be fine. You should have gave up, kid. I'm on a whole different level. Yoroi replied, trying to intimidate Shino. The masked Aburame didn't respond, instead he pushed some chakra into the seal on his right shoulder blade, releasing his bow. Shino grabbed the bow and dropped into a defensive stance. Alright, Yoroi said as he pulled out a kunai. The two shinobi stared each other down intensely for what seemed like minutes. Neither twitched or made any indication of making an attack. Then bugs started to flow out of Shino's clothes. Yoroi shifted slightly, causing his sunglasses to glint. Then with no warning the cloud of insects swarmed Yoroi. Even as he was engulfed, Yoroi still made no movements. A clone, quite impressive. I didn't even see you form it. Shino said as he felt the blade of a kunai press against his throat. You're not bad yourself, your clan's unique bug clone. Yoroi said as he jumped back. A moment later the Shino standing there dispersed into a swarm of bugs. Yoroi put the bugs to the back of his mind as he ducked under a swing from Shino's bow. Yoroi spun around and lifted his kunai over his head, blocking a downward strike from Shino's bow. Your strength is stunning. That blow would have cracked my head like an egg. Yoroi stated. Shino didn't respond, instead he backed away, spinning his bow around his body in an impressive display. Fancy, but not it's a waste time. Yoroi stated as he charged right as Shino was about put his back to him. Yoroi smirked as he stabbed his kunai right at Shino's exposed back. Just before he made contact, Shino bent forward, avoiding the blow. Shino then jabbed his bow into the hand Yoroi was holding his kunai, causing him to release it. Before Yoroi could recover from, Shino kicked the prone ninja in the chest. Yoroi, ignoring the searing pain in his chest, flipped his body so that his feet landed on the wall. Using chakra, the elder Konaha genin stuck to the wall. Looking to Shino, Yoroi noticed that he was now positioned in an offensive stance, his bow held behind him while one arm was pointing forward at him. So you're going on the attack? Yoroi asks. No, this fight has reached its conclusion. Shino said as he placed his bow on his shoulder and it disappeared in a puff of smoke. What? Yoroi asks until he lost control of his chakra and fell to the floor. Yoroi tried to adjust his body in the air, but he found he didn't have the energy to do so. Yoroi landed on the arena floor in a crumpled heap. I assume you can feel it now. Shino asks. Yoroi understood immediately. He could feel hundreds of the tiny insects crawling all over his body. When? Yoroi managed. When you blocked my bow. My weapon is engulfed in my insects. The moment we made contact, they swarmed onto your body. Your musing on my strength distracted you from that. Shino stated. Winner Shino Aburame. Genma stated as he dropped to the arena floor. Shino nodded to the Chunin before recalling his bugs and walking up to the balcony. You held back quite a bit, Shino. Naruto murmured when Shino reached their group. Why show everything when my opponent didn't require me to? Shino responded in an equally hushed tone. Naruto nodded. So Hinata, you are the only member of our team who hasn't fought yet. Naruto stated, his tone somewhat aloof. I won't lose. Hinata said, her voice soft but still full of conviction. Naruto smirked slightly while Shino nodded. That's the spirit, Hinata. You're going to be the finale to Team 8's a clean sweep. Anko said as she grabbed her 3 genin in a hug. Getting quite confident, aren't we? Kakashi said. Anko turned to see the other teams and their Chunin sensei looking at her. Why shouldn't I be? I'm the only team who have had all their members win and Hinata is no slouch. The only person she would have trouble with is that Suna nut job. Anko said. Just then the board stopped shuffling. Hinata Hyuga versus Gaara. Wow. Now that is just Kami fucking with you. Asuma stated as everybody looked to the board. It doesn't matter, Hinata can still take this mental case. Anko retorted confidently. Good luck, Hinata. Naruto stated before glancing at Gaara. The blonde frowned when he saw Gaara staring at Hinata with insane grin. The redhead turned to Naruto and mouthed something that made Naruto glare. He calmed his expression to see Hinata listening to Shino. Naruto tapped her shoulder. Hinata. Naruto murmured, only loud enough for her to hear. Yes, Naruto-kun. Hinata asked, her voice soft as usual. Naruto leaned in close to her ear. Hinata shivered when Naruto warm breath caressing her skin. Be careful. Naruto said, his voice barely a whisper. Hinata could only nod as her voice was caught in her throat. A ghost of a smile appeared on Naruto's face as he pulled away. Hinata nodded again and walked down to the arena with a vibrant blush on her face. Oh, Naruto was a romantic love-filled good luck for your girlfriend. Ino squealed. No. Naruto deadpanned. Ino sighed and mumbled something about stupid blondes who ignore their feelings. What did you say to Hinata? Shino asks. Be careful. Naruto answered before turning down to the arena. What is it? Shino asked, senses his teammates' anxiety. I looked at him and he mouthed to me. Enjoy the show, Naruto said through gritted teeth. Are both competitors ready? Gaara nodded, his malicious smile still painted on his face. Hinata nodded as well as she moved her hand right below her left breast and pressed the seal there, releasing her seal right as Genma began the fight. Hinata caught her bow and tilted her head to the right slightly. Moment later a large bang sounded behind her. The spectators turned to see a large crater in the wall. What the hell was that? Ino asked, gaping at the crater. The cork to Gaara's gourd. Naruto said. Down at arena, Hinata had just unsealed her quiver and knocked an arrow. You realize that my sand will only block that arrow, right? Gaara stated in a bored tone. Suddenly Gaara's sand shot behind him and blocked something. Gaara glanced behind him to see Hinata jabbing the sand with 2 fingers. To his surprise, some of the sand would stay on the floor after she touched it. What? Gaara asks. Your sand is controlled by chakra. My taijutsu allows me to disrupt chakra. Hinata stated. Gaara nodded and waved his hand at Hinata. A wave of sand flew at the Hyuga heiress. Being so close, Hinata couldn't dodge and she was engulfed. Sand binding coffin. Gaara droned as he held his hand up like he was holding a cup. The sand covering Hinata lifted her off the ground and completely engulfed her body. Naruto tensed and suddenly the room was filled in killer intent. Gaara turned to Naruto and smirked. Cute. I'll kill him. Naruto growled. Desert funeral. Gaara said. The redhead closed his hand into a fist and the sand surrounding Hinata imploded, spraying liquid everywhere. Water. Gaara questioned aloud. Water style. Explosive water shock wave. Hinata voiced echoed throughout the room. Gaara's sand suddenly covered the boy in a dome moments before 4 jets of water hit him. The jets continues until the water reached the balcony. When the jets stopped, everybody glanced to see 4 Hinatas standing above the water panting heavily. 3 Hinatas turned into water and added to the flooded arena while the remaining one took a deep breath before activating her Byakugan. Hinata gasped before jumping forward. A moment later a spear of sand came shooting out of the water. The moment Hinata landed, she skated to the side to avoid another spear. Hinata jumped up to and then spun, dodging 2 spears, and then suddenly a giant ball of sand came shooting out of the water, hurtling toward Hinata. The moment Hinata landed, she began to spin and release chakra from her body. Kaden, Hinata shouted just before she was engulfed in a dome of chakra. The ball of sand impacted Hinata's Kaden and the two slid back on the water. The sand ball came apart, revealing a soaking wet Gaara. Hinata's Kaden stopped and reveled, Hinata holding her bow with the arrow nocked. Hinata released the arrow that flew at a breakneck pace at Gaara. The sand blocked the flying projectile, but, because it was weighed down by water, the arrow reached within an inch of Gaara's face. Gaara growled and the sand shattered the arrow to splinters. You Konaha shinobi have begun to annoy me. You will the first to give blood to mother. Now, make me feel alive. Gaara screamed, commanding multiple tendrils of sand to shout at Hinata. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video, as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.